that I sent up to you, the webinar. So here's my files. I did put them in a separate folder. And I'm going to double click on that one that's called student file new. Let's go right into there. And of course, when I double click on that, it's going to open up in Excel. Okay. Now, everybody, this particular workbook has many, many sheets. And I use this workbook for a lot of the classes that I teach, especially Excel and Power BI. So we're not going to use all the sheets today. So let me show you a shortcut. When the workbook has a lot of sheets, follow, by the way, I try to make my mouse bigger for you so you can find my mouse. And sometimes I'll make my mouse do that so you can find my mouse that way. I'm going to come down here and right click on this arrow pointing to the right. I'm going to right click, and then you see a list of all the sheets. They're not in alphabetical order. They're in the order they appear in the workbook. So I want you to scroll all the way down to the bottom. And then way at the bottom, you'll see sheets like suppliers and shippers and products. So those are sheets that we're going to use today, and the order sheet. So now if you look at the very, very bottom sheet, there's one that's called Power BI and Power Pivot formulas. So we're actually going to use that today when we get to the DAX formula part of the class. So we don't have to do a whole lot of typing with those. I have some prepared for you. So I want you to scroll all the way down to the bottom of the sheets, and let's click on the sheet that's called orders, and then click OK. And it's going to be this one. So this is the preferable type of data that Power BI likes from Excel. So this is called a table or a formatted table. So if your data is just plain data, it's okay if it is plain data, but Power BI really prefers the table format like this. So to make it like this, what you would do is you would click on one cell among, the huge amount of data, and you would pick on the Home tab up at the top. Then you would come over here and you pick where it says Format as a Table, and then you pick one of your styles. So let's say I like this one because then every other row is going to be that color, and that whole row is like that. So, you can pick whatever color that you like. But let's say I go with this one. And then if this is the first time it's becoming a table, you'll get another window. And then on that other window, make sure it has the proper range and make sure it's checked where it says my table has headers. So notice it does look a little bit different than the normal data. And then the headers, it's very, very important that the headers are on the top row of the data. And then you just have rows and rows of data below that. So if I scroll down, it's just rows and rows of data. That could be thousands of rows. It's going to be continuous. So that's the type of data that Power BI prefers to get from Excel. This is a table or a formatted table. Now, what I also recommend is that you give the table a name. So I'm going to click on that table. Notice when I click on it, I get a new tab up at the top that's called Table Design. You only get that when you click on that table. So, or if you have an older version of Excel, it might say the word design there, but I think you guys have the newer version. So I'll pick in the word table design. Over here, you can pick a different style if you like, but follow my mouse over here to the left. And right now it does say orders there, but that's the name of the table. And that's what's going to show up in Power BI. So I would really recommend that you make your data from Excel into one of these tables and then give it a good name. Instead of like being table 1 and table 2, give it a name that you would recognize once you're in Power BI. And then once you do that, you're going to save that workbook, of course. Now, let me show you data that's not formatted like this table. So I'm going to come down here and right click on this arrow pointing to the right, and you see a list of all the sheets. Let's scroll back up to the top, and let's click on a sheet that's called Sum If, Count If, and Average If. Right? So I'm going to click there and click OK. So this is not a table within Excel. Now, Power BI would still recognize that data, but it's just better if it's formatted as a table. So if I want to use that sheet in Power BI, you can see the field names are up at the top. Now, here's another important point, everybody. If your field names are not on row 1, then if there's something above those, you'd have to make sure there's at least one blank row right above where the field names are so that Power BI will recognize where the field names are. So if they're not on row one specifically, make sure there's one blank row above where the field names actually are so that Power BI will recognize this. So if I really want to use that data, I would click on one of these cells within the data range. I'll click on the Home tab. I'll come over here and pick on the word Format as a Table, and you pick one of your styles. Uh, Also, another important point is, if you look at my screen, there's a blank column in column H because this other data over here isn't involved with that data. So make sure there's a blank column, before there's any other data. So I'm just going to click on one of these cells. I'll pick where it says Format as a Table. Then you pick one of your styles. I'll go with this one again. Now, here's that window I was talking about. Typically, it'll pick the proper range and then make sure it is checked where it says my table has headers. Otherwise, you'll get headers like, column 1 and column 2 and things like that. So I'll click OK. Good. Now, I'm going to click on the Table Design menu. I'm going to come over here to the left, and this one says Table 11. So I would definitely give that a better name because Power BI is going to use that table name, not the sheet name. So I'm going to, where it says Table 11, I'll type in the word expenses. And then press the Enter key. Now I would save that workbook. Oh, another thing, if this sheet has a filter on it in Excel, Power BI is going to pull in the full data set. So we'll talk about how to do the filter on the Power BI side, but Power BI is going to pull in that full table, even if the filter is on here. So those are good tips of what the data should look like in Excel. All right, I would recommend using these tables, giving the tables good names. All right. So now let's close out of the Excel workbook. We're actually going to go back to there later on to use that other sheet that had those formulas. So keep that handy. I'm going to close this window. Okay, Kat, thank you so much. I'm going to close out of Excel, and we can save that. So now let's go into Power BI, everybody. Now I have my Power BI icon at the bottom of my taskbar. We are going to use the desktop version today. We can always publish it so that it will be available on the online version, but I really like to design it on the desktop version. So I'll pick on the desktop version of Power BI, and then here we are onto a new report. Let's pull that data in. So we're going to use that same workbook that we were just using. So remember, everybody, when you have questions, feel free to unmute yourself or put something in the chat. Or if you feel that you're falling behind, or if you want me to repeat something, feel free to unmute yourself or put something in the chat. So that's why I'm always looking over at this other monitor. Once we're here, let's get the data from Excel. That seems to be the data source that you're using a lot. So I'm going to click on the Home tab. And of course, I'm going to click where it says Excel Workbook here. Now we're going to point to that Excel workbook. So I put mine in my desktop folder, and I made a folder for today's class, which is called Power BI Onsite. And there's the file that we just used. Now, people keep on asking me about larger data sets. So if those kind of questions come up, I have the other one as well. So I'm going to pick on where I start the student file new, and I'll pick on open. Now you're going to get this navigator window, everybody. Okay. Now it's going to have the tables that we just talked about. Those are going to be up at the top. In fact, there's that expenses table. So it's using the table names. If you look below suppliers 1, notice how the icon here changes because those are just normal sheets that are not formatted tables. So I really think that Power BI prefers those formatted tables. It's just data that is consistent with what Power BI is looking for anyway. So you can see that expenses one, there's the orders one. So I want you to pick a few of these, everybody. Let's choose, actually, why don't we choose all of the formatted tables? So I'll choose category 7, customer 6, employees 5, expenses is the one I just showed you, right? New shippers, order details, orders 4, power map table, products 3, shippers 2, and suppliers 1. And then if you notice below suppliers 1, the icon changes, and those are sheets in the workbook that are not tables. So I want you to check all the ones from category 7 down to suppliers 1 and all the ones in the middle. Now, let me talk about these buttons down here at the bottom. If you pick on the word transform data, that'll bring it into the Power Query window so you can manage the data before you bring it into Power BI. But if you pick on the word load, it'll bring it directly into Power BI. But we can always go back into the Power Query editor. So I'm going to pick on the word load here. Now, I'd like to talk about that Power Query window when we talk about the filters. So this will take a couple seconds. You can see the wheels are spinning. It's pulling all those tables in one big step. And you can certainly see those are the better table names, rather than be like table 1 and table 2. It gets pretty confusing if you do all those. And now we have data that we can use pretty much for the rest of our day. So notice how the tables are going to be on the right-hand side. Now with Power BI, it doesn't matter where the data came from. They'll all be over there on the right-hand side, and they'll be in alphabetical order. So you can make your reports from all your different data sources. Power BI pretty much neutralizes the data and puts them all over there for your use. So that's what we should have so far. Let's go ahead and save what we have at this time. So I'm just going to come over here and just do a normal save. And when it saves, it's going to save it as a Power BI file. Mine's just catching up here. Oh, okay. So it wants me to log onto my account. And then for me, it verifies on my phone. Okay, good. I don't know why sometimes it asks me twice. Okay. So now I'm just going to save this. You can see it makes it a PBIX file, which is a Power BI file. I'll just call it class 1. And I'm going to put mine in my documents folder. So I'll pick on save. All right. All right. So now let me show you a diagram, everybody. Let's talk about that data, because what happens is you have your external data, which is probably the Excel spreadsheet. And then we have the Power Query level. And then we have what we're looking at here, which is the Power BI level. So let me draw a diagram for you. So I'm going to make a new slide here in PowerPoint. And I'll just use the shapes from, over here. So let's say this is the external data. And of course, that could be Excel or SQL Server, whatever it's going to be. Then it really goes through the Power Query level before it goes to Power BI. I'm going to also call that the transform level, because remember how that button said transform. And then it gets into Power BI. And I'll show you why this is relevant. So I'll do another shape here. And then it finally gets to the screen that we're looking at, which is Power BI. And I'm just going to connect these boxes. Let me get rid of these text boxes in the background here. Get rid of all those. All right, that's fine. So I'm just going to use the connectors. I'll use the shapes again, these arrows. Okay. So everybody, here's the main data. Let's say that's Excel. So it goes through the Power Query. It's almost like a filter. So if you did a filter here, then when you use Power BI, it'll be the filter data from that point forward. And then it actually does the filter on the other source. So this will limit your records. I know you have really huge tables. So if you do the layer, if you do the filter in the Power Query screen, which I'm going to show you, then by the time the data gets to Power BI, it would have already been filtered. And then Power BI is dealing with less data. And when it refreshes, Power BI will have less data to deal with as well. So even though we pulled the data directly, it looked like we pulled it directly into Power BI, we can go back into the Power Query window and still build the filter there. And then it'll refresh the data so that, Power BI would then have the filter data. So let's talk about the Power Query and doing a filter in there. Let me show you what that's really about. So let's go back into Power BI. And of course, you have your tables on the right. So follow my mouse over here to the left, everybody. Click on this icon that says Table View on the left-hand side. It's the second one on the left. And then we'll see the raw data for each table. Okay. So I want to come over here to the right, and I'll pick on the Orders table. And that one has a number of records. If you look down here on the bottom left, it says it has 1,292 records, okay? And I know you guys have much bigger data than that. Well, if you notice, look at some of those order dates. They go way back to 1998 and 1999. Let's just say I only want the records maybe like from 2000 and onward. So I'll show you really where to make the filter so it's the most effective. Come back over here. We're going to right click on the orders for table. And then when you pick on the word edit query, that's the Power Query. All right. So let's go into edit query there. And you're going to see it'll bring you to a different window. It's just called the Power Query Editor. I know we did some of this last week, but Kat asked me to review the filter topic again and pull the data in from Excel and these kind of things, Okay. Now, everybody come over here and notice how each of the columns has a pull down. And then also each column is going to have the field name. And then to the left of the field name, it has this icon. And that really is the data type. So if you look at the order date, it has the calendar and the clock. And that tells me it's a date and time column. Now you could actually change the data type very easily. Just click on that icon to the left of the column name, and you can change the data type right there. But anyway, let's click on the pull down to the right of the word order date, and you have your classic filter. So now we're not going to uncheck those individually. What I'll do is I'll say, pick on the word date and time filters. And then I want anything after, let's say, December 31st of 1999, right? So I'll pick the word after here, and you get this other window. So I'll type in a date 12/31/1999, and you can just type it in like that, or pick a date over here, of course. So I'll click OK. Now notice right away that it's only showing the records from 2000 and on. Now, what I did with this table is I added some more recent records so we could do, some more recent dates. But the point is, if you do the filter here, then that'll be almost like a permanent way the table is going to be adjusted until you go back here and make another adjustment. It'll actually do the filter back at where it's pulling the data from. So when it refreshes the data, Power BI will just have the records that you want to see. Obviously, each column can have a filter as much as you want. Now, you can always come back to this window and change the filter. But notice how now it's actually down to 780 records. So that took off almost half the table just like that. Go ahead and close that window at the very top. And we're going to say yes to save that. Now, every time you go into that Power Query window, it actually refreshes the data. So just pull the data in from the other data source again. And if you'll notice, even here, now on the table view of Power BI, it's down to 780 records, okay? So what I would recommend to you to really limit the records in that table, do it in that Power Query window. So then when you're here on the Power BI side, you're already looking at the filter data. Now we can also filter directly on the visuals themselves, but if you do the filter where I just showed you, it's going to basically filter the table that Power BI sees. And it's always going to follow this path that I have here. So even though we pulled it into the Power BI first, I went back to the Power Query, it refreshed the data from the source. So now we're looking at the filter data on the Power BI side as well. All right. So I hope that makes that a little bit more clear. I would highly recommend that you do your filter on the Power Query side. So the next thing I want to talk about is doing the visuals and doing the filter on the visuals. So filters seem to be a topic that you guys have a lot of questions about, or it's a big need. So let's spend some more time on the filters. Let's go back into Power BI. All right. Now this, of course, everybody, is the table view, which is over here on the left, and then you can see the raw data, and that is the filter data, of course. If you do the filter here, it's just for visual purposes. It doesn't stay like that. It's just like temporary. But if you do it in that Power Query window, it's more of like, that's the way the table is going to appear here in Power BI. Let's come over here and pick on the report view. And the report view, of course, is where you build your visuals. I'd like to show you some other filters here. So let's click on this visual, which is the stacked bar chart. Now I'm just going to move this visual a little bit and then make it bigger. All right. Actually, when it's on the page, it's called a tile because we can move it or resize it. All right. So now let's use, we're going to come over here to the, actually, before we make the visuals, let's talk about join the tables together. This is very, very important. When we join our tables together, everybody, then we can make the visuals come from more than one table. So I'd really like to, this is another point that I was really asked to go into further. So I actually have a slide about that. Yeah, the table relationships is when we join the table together. Well, how did you get from orders to visuals? Caps. Yeah, yeah. So hold on, everybody. I went into the Power BI, and then I did click on this report view over on the left. You with me? Then when I pick on the report view, then you see the visuals there. Is that what you have? Yes. But actually, we're going to come back over here and go into that model view in just a second. So the model view, everybody, is where we join our tables together. But Caps and everybody else, you have these tables so far, right? Go ahead and raise your hands, everybody, on the webinar platform if you have what I have so far. Just confirm that. That's it. And if you don't, please let me know. All right, so we should be good. Thank you for that. Now, everybody, let's go back. I just want to show you some information about the relationships. The relationships here are called the model view. And that's where you can join your tables together. Allows you to create visuals and reports from more than one table. If you make a visual from tables that are not related, it's going to show you extra records, and it's not going to be correct. So in other words, if the fields on that visual come from different tables, and those tables are not joined together, either directly or indirectly, then it's just, the numbers there are not going to be correct. If you make a visual from tables that are joined on the wrong field, then the visual will be empty. I'm going to show you some examples of that because that can happen too. When you're in that model view that we're about to go to, each table should be joined to at least one other table. Now, when there's more than two tables, they're not all going to be joined to each other. I've never seen it when there's more than two tables that they're all will be joined to each other. But you always strive for each table being joined to at least one other table. When you join the tables together, the field name that joins the table together, it doesn't have to be the same for both tables, but the two fields have to have the same data type. So if you have a text field on one table, it has to be a text field on the other. Or if it's a date field here, it has to be a date field on the other table, or a number field has to go with another number field. Now, there's going to be one of the tables typically will have what we call a primary key. And that means that field is unique for every single record. So think about like the Social Security number. That should be unique for everybody who's in the IRS system, or we hope it's unique, So that's the primary key of the Social Security system, the Social Security number. Or think about, you probably have different customer IDs. Each one has a different customer ID. That would be the primary key of the customer's table. Now, when that field links to a field on another table, the joining field in the other table is called the foreign key. So it's just terms that is used in relational databases, which Power BI is. And then we'll see what it means. One to many means maybe one customer can have many orders. So in that case, the customer ID on the customers table would be the primary key, and the customer ID on the orders table would be the foreign key. Or sometimes it'll start with the orders table and then go to the customers table, and they would call that many to one as far as the type of relationship. Sometimes that field is the primary key on both sides. And if you ever see that, then it'll be called a one-to-one. So it's whether that key is the primary key on that table or not. So, and then sometimes that field isn't the primary key on either side, and then it's called a many-to-many. But hopefully, the field is the primary key on one of the tables. So it would be like one to many, many to one, or even one to one. So let me show you where all this applies in the Power BI. This is fairly important. Let's go back into Power BI. All right, everybody. Now, come over here to the left and click on the model view right there. It's the icon with the three boxes there. And then you're going to get this kind of window. Now, let me show you how to give yourself more room on this window. I want to come over here and click on this arrow to the right of the word properties, and that'll collapse that window. And then come over here and click on this arrow to the right of the word data, and that'll collapse that window. Okay? So now you'll start to see those tables that we pulled in. By the way, you can join the tables together even if they're from different sources. That's perfectly fine. So you'll see the tables for each one that you've pulled into Power BI so far. Now you can scroll down here. You can scroll to the right. Here's what I would do on this particular window. I might zoom out so I can get a bigger picture. I'm going to come down here to the bottom right, and then here's your zoom. So I'm just going to zoom out a little bit, like that, see? And then you can start to get the bigger picture. So I'm just going to zoom out one more time. Okay, that's even better. Now, it made some assumptions for us, and usually when it guesses the right thing. So these lines between the tables, they can be called joins or links or relationships. You can use those words interchangeably, joins or links or relationships. So let me show you why it would have chosen a field. I want you to move your mouse between to the line between the customers and the orders table, and you'll notice that the field is highlighted and it's the customer ID field. So there's two reasons why I chose the customer ID field to link those together. First of all, it is a common field between two tables. And then one of them, if it shows that, one of them is the primary key for one of those tables. So I can imagine that the customer ID is going to be unique for the customers table. So that would be the primary key of the customers table. The customer ID on the orders table is called the foreign key. Okay, so that's why I chose that field. They both had the customer ID field, and the customer ID was the primary key of the customers table. Now go ahead and double click on that line between the customers and the orders, double click. And then you get this other window. Then you can really see the data. So everybody, you see the customer ID for the orders table and the customer ID for the customers table. Now look down here. This is what I was just talking about from my PowerPoint. It says many to one. So many orders can go with one customer because, well, the customer ID is unique on the customer's table. So each customer could have many orders on the orders table. So the way they have the tables is it's a many to one. If the customer's table was at the top, then it would say one to many right there. If you click on that pull down where it says many to one, you'll see the ones I had listed on this slide. One to one means the customer ID would be the primary key on both tables. So usually it guesses the right thing for you, all right? Now, you could pick a different field in this window if you wanted to, but usually it guesses the right thing. Now, in real life, when you make your own relationships, which we're going to do in just a second, the field name doesn't have to match. As long as the data type is the same, that's more important. But, you know, sometimes it'll have different field names. I'm going to click OK. So all the ones that it guessed here are perfectly fine. You know, these are all good. Now, that expenses table probably isn't going to fit into any of the tables. I just did that back on the Excel side. So let's move that expenses table. I'm not really worried about that one. I'm also going to do something with the new shippers table. I'm not worried about that one. So let's scroll over to the right. I'm not worried about the power map table. The one I'm worried about is the shippers table. So I am going to use that in my examples today. So let's figure out why that one didn't get joined in. Now, what if you think you're going to use that table, you might want to move it closer to the other table. So I'm going to come over here to the right and pick up the shippers table and drag it over here closer to the orders table will be good. Let me show you why Power BI didn't join that one in. I'm going to scroll down on the orders table, everybody. Let's scroll down. Oh, I see. On the orders table, the field is called ship via. But on the shippers table, it's called shipper ID. So Power BI wouldn't know they go together because they have different field names. But if you notice, both of those have that little sum icon to the left of the field, which means they're both number fields. The ones that don't have anything next to them are text fields, and the ones that have a little calendar next to them, they're date fields. So you have to match the data type. So watch how you make up your own relationships or your own links. Let's pick up the word ship via for the orders table and drag it to where it says shipper ID on the shippers table. See where my mouse is? I'm right on the shipper ID field at the shippers table. I'm going to lift my finger. Now you'll see a line between those two tables. Good. All right. So, you know, sometimes you have to make up your own relationships, or you can call them links or joins or relationships. Go ahead and double click on that line that we just made, and we'll be back on this other window. You can see the orders table has the ship via field over here, and on the shippers table, it's called shipper ID. Even though they have different field names, you can tell that they're the same data type and the same actual data. And again, many orders can be from the same from that same shipper. So that one's also a many to one, based on the fact that the shipper ID is the primary key of the shipper's table. Over here, it's not. So that's where it's called the foreign key. Okay. So it's just really, really important that you spend some time on this window. I'm going to click OK. In real life, you want to make sure that each one of those, each table should be joined to at least one other table. I'm not worried about the expenses table today. That was just, that other table I used for example. I'm not worried about the new shippers, and I'm not worried about the Power Map table. But if you scroll down, all the other tables are linked to at least one other table. What does that really mean? That means we can make our visuals come from the various tables. Okay? Now, I want to try an experiment. Well, yeah, let's try an experiment. Does everybody have what I have here? Because that's going to be important for the rest of our class. Does that give you a better understanding of joining the tables together, everybody? Okay. Is there any questions about that part of the class? It's kind of important. All right. So go ahead and save our work up at the top. So that's called the model view. Now, everybody, let's start to build a visual. And we'll start with some simple visuals today. So I'm going to go back over here to the report view. Okay, good. So I started that visual. I started that tile. If you don't have that one, come over here to the, well, let me even start that one from scratch so it's not confusing. I'm back in my report view. I'm going to click on the one that I have and press my delete key. So now we should have a blank page. All right. Now follow my mouse over here, everybody, and you see your various visuals. Those are the ones that come with Power BI, but there's going to be more that you can get. In fact, I'm going to show you one that we're going to use from a third-party source in a few minutes. I want you to come over here to the right and click on the one. It's called the stacked bar chart. Let's click right there. And then you'll see that tile over here on the left. To me, it's fairly obvious. I can move that tile around the page by dragging it. I can make it bigger with the sizing handles. That's pretty obvious. And then you can fit as many tiles as you want on that page. And then if you look down here at the bottom, you could add more pages to your report down there. All right. So I want to make a table using the customers table and the orders table. I really want to demonstrate the importance of those relationships that we just did. Come over here to the right. Let's expand the customers table. And then I'm going to pick up the company name and drag it here where it says add data fields for the y-axis, right? So I know some of you know some of this stuff, but I'm trying to tell a story here using these examples. So I'm going to use the company name in the y-axis. Now in the x-axis, we'll use a field from the orders table. So come over here to the right. You might have to scroll down to see the orders table. I'm going to expand the orders table, and then we can use fields from there. So I'll pick up the order amount and drag it here into the x-axis. And now, we have our visual. So it has the company name, everybody. And you can see the highest ones are up at the top. Of course, I want to turn the numbers on. So to turn the numbers on, come over here to the section where it says visualizations, and then click on the paintbrush icon here. And the paintbrush icon says format. So we're going to click there. And then these are all features that you can put onto the chart. In Excel, the numbers are called data labels, and here they're called data labels also. So come down here. It says data labels. Right now it says they're off. So just click on the word off really to switch them on. And now we should see numbers on that chart. Okay? Now, everybody, here's what I want to talk about with those relationships. Here's how significant they are. It knows which customers goes with which orders because of that link, okay? So you can see Ernst Handel has 133,000 and Save a Lot has 128,000 and so on. Okay. So let's experiment with the links a little bit. So I'm just going to write those numbers down. Ernst has 133, and Save a Lot has 128. Okay, fine. And those are the actual numbers that they should be. Now, everybody, I'm going to come over here to the right and click on the model view right there. Now, look, I want you to right click on the line between the customers and the orders. I'm going to right click on that actual line and then click on the word delete. And it says, are you sure you want to delete that relationship? I'm going to say yes. So those tables are not joined anymore on this window. Let's go back into the report view over here. Now look what happened. This is an obvious and significant change. Now they all say 1.35 million because it doesn't know which orders goes with which customers anymore, you see? So it's like it doesn't know what we want right now. So this is a visual that comes from two tables that are not joined together. So it doesn't know what to do. That's actually the total of all of the orders for each individual customer. On the other hand, let's join those two tables by the incorrect field and see what that does. So let's go back over here to the model view. And we're back on this window. So tell you what, we're going to make an obvious, mistake or pick the wrong field. Yeah, okay. So I'll pick on, let's see. So I know this is going to be incorrect, and I'm doing it on purpose. So let's pick on contact name from the customers table and drag it to the ship name in the orders table, right? So I'm going from the contact name here to the ship name on the orders table. So it does put a line there. And you're like, oh, maybe that's the right one, They seem to have the same type of name. It's kind of similar. Come back over here to the report view, and now watch what happened to the visual. It's completely empty. And it says, we have a blank customer there because there's no customers whose contact name matches the ship name on the orders table. So now it shows you nothing. So, I mean, that's how critical it is to get that right on that other window. So that was just a demonstration of that, okay? So come back over here and go back to the model view. Obviously, that was the incorrect one. So we're going to click on that line between the customers and the order again, and then I'll pick on the word delete. Yes, I want to delete that relationship. Now we'll do the right one. So I'm going to scroll back up on the orders table. Oh, they both have a customer ID. Maybe that's the one, So I'll pick up the customer ID from the customers table and drag it to the customer ID of the orders table. Now that line is back again. Good. Now go back to the report view over here on the left. And now it's back to the real report. And Ernst is back to having 133,000. And Save a Lot is back to having 128,000. Everybody, I can't make it more clear than that. If you have a visual that's using fields from two tables that are not joined together, either directly or indirectly, then it'll give you incorrect results. Or if the tables are joined with the wrong fields, that'll give you incorrect results. So you can see how important that model view is. Now, let me show you what I mean by a table being joined indirectly. Let's go back to the model view. The customers table is joined directly to the orders table. But the orders table is joined to the employees table here. So the customers table is joined indirectly to the employees table. So I could use the employees and the customers on the same visual because it has the link of the orders table, okay? So, that's why you want to try to find a way to join each table to at least one other table. That's what I really want to talk about with the relationships today. Does that make that more clear, everybody? Go ahead and raise your hand if that helps a little bit in joining your tables together. It doesn't have to have the same field name, but they definitely have to be the same data type and the same actual data. Any questions about that part of the class? Okay. Let's go back into the model view, which is here. So now let's start talking more about the filters. So it shows you the filters on the Power Query window. But now, here we're looking at the filter data. Let me start to show you how you can filter the visual individually. So I want to make sure that filter is that visual is selected. Notice how you have this filter section here. Now, if that's not shown for you, let me show you how you would turn that on. So I'm going to pick on the View menu up at the top. Okay, View. Now I'm going to click on the word Filters there, and that's going to turn that off. And then, of course, I'll click on the word Filters again, and that'll turn it back on. Good. All right. So everybody, when that visual is selected, notice how you have a chance to just do the filters on that one visual, right? It says filters on this visual only. So let me show you some variations of this. Now it'll let me filter by the company name, which is already on the visual, or it'll let me filter on the order amount, right? So I can click on the pull down where it says sum of the order amount, and then I can say greater than or less than a certain number. Or if I pick on the filter for the company name, I'm going to click on this pull down here. Then I can, pick individual names. So for example, I'll choose Alfred's and Anna and Antonio. So obviously you can do the filters like that. And that's just for that one visual. But let me show you how to go a little bit further with that. I'm going to click where it says select all. What if I wanted to see the top 10 customers, everybody? Watch my mouse. Come over here where it says basic filtering for the company name, and then click on that pull down, and then you have some good choices. So here it says top N, like it could be top 10 or top 15 and so on. So I'll do top N, and I want to see, well, it could be the top or even the bottom, right? See where my mouse is? It says top or the bottom. So I'll choose top again, and then click on this field, and I'll say the top 10. But it wants to do the top 10 based on what? Well, it's based on the order amount, but you have to tell it. Come over here to the right, pick up the word order amount, and drag it here to where it says by value. So we want to see the top 10 companies based on the sum of the order amount, right? And then click on the word apply filter there, and now we're just seeing 10 customers. So that was a nice way to filter, right? So I just want to make sure, we're getting these down. You can filter on that Power Query side. That kind of filters all of that data that's going to be used in Power BI. And then we can filter the actual visual itself. That was kind of interesting, right? The top 10. Now, what if you wanted to see the top 10, but you want them to be maybe the lowest ones up at the top going down? Watch how we can sort the visual. That's going to be a different story. You want to come over here and click on the tile itself. Then you're going to get these icons here. Sometimes those icons are below the visual. The only reason that they're below it right now is because there's no room for them at the top. So if I move that tile down just a little tiny bit, then those icons will be up at the top. All right, so look for these extra icons. Sometimes they'll be up at the top of the tile. Sometimes they'll be at the bottom. I want you to click on the three dots right there. And then notice how it says sort. I can sort it by the company name. That will be like an alphabetical sort. Or it does say sum of the order amount. But if I want the lower ones up at the top, I'll say sort ascending. And that's exactly what happened. Are you with me on this? So you have the filter screen over here. To sort a visual, you're going to click on the tile, click on the three dots, and then we have the sort. All right, so you can sort it by it'll give you the fields that are on the visual, like the company name and the order amount and so on. Okay, so maybe you try that. You're like, oh, I kind of like the other ones. I like the ones that are the highest numbers at the top. So I'll say sort descending. All right, so every tile will allow you to click on those dots and then pick the sort from there. Let's go ahead and save our work. Good. All right, so now we have these filters, everybody. Now let me draw your attention back to this filter section. When the tile is selected, then you have this item here that says filters on this visual. But what if that page had more than one tile? I'm going to scroll down on this filter section and look what it says here. Filters on the entire page. So that'll change all of the visuals on the entire page, or even filter on all pages. And that'll change all the visuals on all of the pages, right? So it's a very clear distinction. If that tile is selected, then on the filters window, you'll have the choice that says filters on this visual. But below that, it'll say filters on this page. All the visuals on that page will be filtered, or filters on all pages. Okay, so make sure you can identify those and use those. The slicers, okay. Ryan says I got to step out for a 2 p.m. meeting. Yeah, right. The recording will be there, Ryan. Are you going to come back at all? Okay, so we're going to just continue on. All right, everybody. So we have the filter going on. Now, the way you can add more filters to a visual is with the slicers. So I'll start the slicer now, and we'll take a break pretty soon. Follow my screen, everybody. The slicer is really going to be another visual. Now, I want you to click on a blank space of the page, and that tells Power BI that you want to make another tile on that page. So I'm going to come over here and click on the slicer icon here. And then, obviously we can resize that window. So I'm going to make that window smaller. And I'll move it over here. Now, this time I would like to do it by the employee last name. The orders table only has the employee ID, so we'll go back to the employees table. I'm going to come over here to the right, to the far right, expand the employees table. I'll pick up the last name and drag it into the field right there. And now we have it by last name, right? There's the slicer. Now, you can have as many slices as you want. They're going to work in conjunction with the filters. Now, the slicers automatically change all of the tiles on the entire page, okay? So let's pick on Buchanan, Callahan, DeVolio, and you can see we're getting instant changes, right? Very good. Now, on the slicer, if you want to pick more than one, hold down your Control key on your keyboard, right? So I'm going to hold down Control, then I'll pick on Callahan, DeVolio, and I can pick more than one, as you can see. So imagine you could have multiple slicers. They're going to work hand in hand with the filters. And, we're starting to build a little bit of a dashboard here. Now, to clear everything back from the slicer, move your mouse to that slicer window, and then click on that little tiny eraser where it says Clear Selections. And everything's back. All right? Now, let's do another slicer, because I'm going to use the last name in a special way in a minute. So actually, why don't we click on that slicer, everybody? Click on that tile. You can always tell that the tile is selected. Instead of the last name, I'd like to use the company name for the shipper. Oh, by the way, I'm going to go back to the slicer window, and I'll choose that little eraser where it says Clear Selections. Everything's back now. That slicer is selected. Come over here to the right. Here we have the last name for the employee. So let's X out of that one. Now scroll down to the bottom, and we're going to use the shippers table. Let's expand the shippers table right there. Scroll down further, and we'll use the company name. I'll pick up the company name and just drag it to the fields right there. And now the slicer is by the company name for the shipper. So I'll pick on, I just resized it. So I'll pick on federal shipping, and that's going to change the visual and so on. So you can combine your filters and those slicers. To get everything back, let's click on that little eraser where it says clear selections. So everybody, go ahead and raise your hands if you have what I have so far. All right. So far we have the visual and the filters we've talked about. I have the tile by company name, which is the shipper. I want to add another slicer here. So let's click on a blank space of the page again. And then come over here and click on the slicer icon. And then we should have another slicer window. This time I'm going to use the contact title from the customers table. So I'm going to come over here to the right, scroll back up to the customers table. I'll pick up the contact title and drag it here into the field like that. Good. Now I'm just going to move this tile so it's over here. Notice when you move the tiles around, you get those red lines, and they help you line things up on the page. You can see that really looks like it's lined up with that other slicer. Good. So you really can have as many slices as you want. So I'll pick on marketing assistant here, and that's changing the visual. I picked on federal shipping, right? So everything is working together. Now, let's talk about when you have a huge amount of data. Obviously, when I'm clicking on the slicers, the tiles are refreshing instantly. Well, when you have a huge amount of data, which I know sometimes you guys do, it can really slow things up. You know, when you have a lot of tiles and a huge amount of data and a lot of visuals, it can really seem to be maybe a couple seconds before they actually refresh. So let me give you an idea about that. Everybody, I want you to come up here and click on the Optimize tab up at the top. All right, let's go with Optimize. And then notice what it says over here. It says Pause Visuals. So that means you can make changes on the filter on the slicers and even the filters, and everything isn't going to refresh until you actually pick in the word refresh visuals right there. This is a good idea when we have a large amount of data. So let's come over here on the left side of the optimize ribbon and click where it says pause visuals. And you can tell that it's on because, I mean, you can tell it is being paused because that icon has like that gray background right now. Now you can choose things on the slicers, and that tile isn't refreshing if you notice. So let's say you make your changes on your slicers. When you're ready, then you can come over here and click where it says refresh visuals, and then it would really refresh that based on your criteria. So that's pretty interesting, right? When you have a lot of data, you can try to pause the visuals. So then you can set things up. When you're ready, you'll pick on refresh visuals, and then the visual is going to reflect your choices. So that can help a little bit. Now, another thing that can help is when we're on let's say we're on these slicers and you start making your choices. Well, to get everything back again, I have to click on that little eraser on each slicer. I have to click on this eraser. Then I have to come over here and click on this eraser, and everything is back. Well, what if there is, 3 or 4 slicers or even more? It starts to be a little bit cumbersome. So let me give you a different idea. I'm just going to move these slicers down a little bit. Move this one down. Good. I can actually add buttons that one button can apply the slicer and one can take the slicer off. So in this case, everybody, I'm going to click on the Insert tab up at the top. All right. So I'm still going to pause my visual there, but I'm going to click on the Insert tab. If you come over here to the right, a text box is just a piece of text, like titles and things. The shapes can be even what I drew in that PowerPoint. You could have the connecting arrows and, different shapes there within for your page. An image is just a picture that you can use to enhance your dashboard. But here it says buttons. So click on the pull down where it says buttons, and these are things you can click on and something's going to happen. So let's click when it says apply all slicers. Now let me show you where the button is, everybody. Actually, this window here where it says visuals are paused, that window is actually blocking the button. So if you notice where my mouse is, if you have this little window, I'm going to close it over here on the right. So I'm going to click on this X here. Good. Now I see a window that says apply all slicers. So I'm going to pick it up and move it over here. Now I want another button. So once again, I want to click on the Insert tab. I'm going to click where it says Buttons again. And now I'll say Clear All Slicers and click that one. Now here's this button. So I'll pick that one up and move it next to the other button. You can see how those red lines come up that we can line things up. Good. So now let's try it. Go ahead and click on your slicers. Choose some things. Now remember, if you wanted to choose more than one item from the slicer window, you're going to hold down the Control key. So I'm going to come over here for this slicer and I'll choose Assistant Sales Agent. I'm going to hold down the Control key and pick Order, Administrator, and Owner. Notice how the slicer is not changing because back on the Optimize tab, it still is paused. So come down here and click where it says Apply All Slicers. Actually, here on this screen, it says Control Click. But if you were to publish that report, which we'll do in a little while, on the published version, you would just have to click that. But here it says Control Click. So I'll hold in the Control key and then click. And then notice how it applied the slicers and the numbers really did change. Try it again. I'll choose other choices on the slicers. I'm going to come down here and do a Control click on Apply All Slicers. And you can really see the numbers changed. Or here, I'll pick where it says Refresh Visuals. And now you can definitely see that it changed. All right. And then try this other button. I'm going to move my mouse to where it says Clear All Slicers and then do Control click there. And now you can see everything is back again. So now we're making even more of a dashboard. So we have the slicers going on, the filters, the buttons to make things a little bit more automatic. If you have a huge amount of data, I recommend that you pick on the Optimize tab and then pick on Pause All Visuals, all right, so that it'll refresh when you're ready to do that. I'll just pick on the Refresh Visuals again, and now everything is back. All right, so these should be good tips for you to making your dashboard, especially when you have a large amount of data. So go ahead and raise your hands, everybody, if you got the pause visuals to work and the slicers to work. That's it. Shannon, you with me? Okay. Now, everyone, let me show you another slicer. You can do a slicer that would be a date range. So actually, let's turn it off where it says paused visuals. I think you get the idea of that. So just go ahead and click where it says pause visuals, and that'll turn it back off, as you can see. Now, click on that blank space of the page. Right over here should be good. And we'll make another slicer. So I'm going to click on this slicer here. Now, this one, I'm just going to make it a little bit wider. And I'm going to make it so it's not so tall. That should be good. Move it right about here should be good. So this one I want more like a date range. So we'll use the order date from the orders table. I'm going to come over here to the right, scroll down to the orders table. You can tell that this is the order date is a date field because of that little calendar to the left of it. So I'll pick up the word order date and drag it into the field right there. Now, when you have a date field or a number field in the slicer, then you get those sliders. So I can change the date the normal way, even with the calendar or just by typing in the date, or you can just use the sliders and change the date range that way. All right. And now I'll click where it says refresh visuals. And now it should have changed. So let me think why they should be changing. I took it off where it says pause visuals. And let me refresh the visual. Yeah, it has the order date. Oh, well, I'm going to come down here. I see. I'm going to click where it says, control click where it says apply all slicers. And then actually there wasn't any for that date range. So I'll pick a different date range and I'll try apply all slicers. And now the data is back again. All right. So when you use a date field or a number field in the slicer, everybody, then you get those sliders. So, a lot of people like those sliders. I just changed it again and I'll choose apply all slicers and then the slicer is updated. All right. So hopefully you're getting some ideas of how to pull your data in. I talked about the filter and the sort. We talked about the model view. And now we're building a little bit of a dashboard. Let's go ahead and save our work. Now I'd like to get everything back again. So I'm going to clear all slicers down here with this button. I'll move my mouse there and do control click. And of course, everything is back again. All right. So any questions about your dashboard, which can consist of the filters, which the user will see when we publish it, the slicers, which the user will see, and these buttons can be good for you. All right. So hopefully you're getting some good ideas. Let's go ahead and save. We're going to do more, of course, but at some point, maybe you want to publish this so that other people would be able to run their reports. So, you get everything working nicely, and now you're ready to put it out there. So let's go to the Home tab up at the top. Home. I'm going to come over here to the right and click on the word Publish. Oh, you know what? Before I publish it, somebody asked me to cover this topic. We can animate the visuals, okay? So there's something that we can add that you can animate all the visuals. So an animation would be, what if I wanted to show this particular chart for each different employee? That would be a good use of the animation. So what we're going to do, everybody, is we're going to get a third-party visual. Follow my mouse. Come over here to the right. This time, click on the three dots. It's going to say get more visuals, right? So I'm going to pick on the three dots there, and then click on the word get more visuals again. And now you're going to see there's many, many more visuals out there for you. Now you can search them over here. You can sort them by popularity or rating or name. Over here, you can filter them. All right. So if you follow my mouse, let's click on the word search and then type in the word animate. Yeah, okay. I have this one here that's called the play axis. You'll see there's other animated ones there, but the play axis can really animate any of the other visuals. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this one. And you can do the same thing. With any of these added visuals, you get this other window and you're going to click on the word add. That means it's going to add it into your Power BI. So I'll pick on the word add. Now look closely, everybody. It says import successful. I'm going to click OK. And here it is right there. It's called the play axis. So it's actually a separate visual. So look what I'm going to do. I'm going to click that guy right there. And it made a separate tile on the page. So I'd like to move it here at the top. So I'm just going to drag it over here. I'm going to resize it so it fits on that top area. And I'll make it so it's not so, it doesn't have to be very big. That should be fine. Take a look at my screen, everybody. I resized that so it fits right above the slicers, you know. Now what we'll do is we'll move the last name into there. Come over here to the right. Scroll back up to the employees table. And in the employees table, I'll pick up the last name and move it into this field for the visual. Good. So you see kind of the play button that you would see on YouTube, and then this one is pause. This one is stop. Now this one will move to the next employee or the previous employee. Go ahead and pick on the play button, and notice how the reports are changing for each different employee. And you can add that to any visual, you know? Try that again. It just ran through all the employees. So I'm going to click on the play button here, and when you publish it, the end users would see that as well. So I'm going to pick on the play button. By the way, that will control all of the visuals on the entire page, not just the one. It will control all the visuals. So I'm going to click on the play button, and you'll notice it starts with Buchanan and then Callahan and so on. Now, if you wanted to pause that, click on the pause here. I paused it at King. So watch. If I click on this double arrow pointing to the right, it'll go to the next employee, which is Levering or Leverling. Click on the arrow pointing to the left, and it'll go back to King, right? So it's pretty interesting. I can vary by employee, right? So that added some life onto the report. And if you think about it, it's also a filter at the same time, right? So somebody asked me to go over that. How do we animate the charts? And that's exactly how we can do it. Now, this is interesting. Wouldn't it be nice if, like, each time I went to a different employee, you know, I want to see this customer be at the top because they have the bigger bar. So watch how we're going to do that. Now, go ahead and raise your hands if you have what I have so far. I was able to download that, the play axis, and then here's part of my report. Carlos and Shannon, do you have that? Everybody good? Okay, perfect. So that's kind of interesting, right? We can play through the different employees. But wouldn't it be nice if when we did that, that the higher company would show up at the top there? So watch what I want to do, everybody. We have to make a setting adjustment. I want you to click on the tile that we just used, so it's selected. Now this time, let's go up to the hold on. Okay. So once you click on that visual, let's pick on the Format tab up at the top. Then you're going to come over here to the left, and you click on the word Edit Interactions, right? So I'm on that play tile. I'm on the Format tab. Come over here to the left and click on the word Edit Interactions. Now, everybody, you see these two little icons. You really have to look for them. This is actually covering what I want to show you, but I want you to move your mouse over here to where it says filter. So it's very, very subtle. When you click on that word edit interactions, look for this little tiny icon, and I want you to click there where it says filter. What that really means is the chart should change, and the ones with the higher numbers should go up to the top. Let's see if that's the case. So I'm going to click on the play button again. Let's see. No, it didn't do it yet. So I'm going to move that tile because it might be in the way of what I'm trying to say. So I'm going to move the tile for the move it over here for a second, and I should be able to pick on Edit Interactions. Oh, I see. Yeah, it was hiding it. It's this icon over here. So the the icons that control that tile are going to be over here. So let's click where it says filter right there. I believe that's the right one. Okay. I clicked on the wrong one before. Now I'll move the tile back up to here. See, these other ones are for those other tiles. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the play button. That's better. See what's happening? Now the highest company for each employee is now at the top of the list. And that's the way that people like to say it. So I know that was weird, but I did click on that play tile. I came up here and picked in the Format tab. I chose Edit Interactions, and it was really this icon here. And you click on the word Filter. Then when we hit the play button, the top customer for each employee is going to actually be up at the top. And then I can pause that. Again, I paused it at leveling. If I click on the right arrow here, it'll move to the next customer, and you can see now Save a Lot is the next employee. Save a Lot is the biggest customer there. I'll click on the next one for Peacock and so on. All right, so now we got it going on. Excellent. Let's go ahead and save your work and go ahead and raise your hand if you got that extra feature to work with the play button. Good. Shani, got that one? All right. Now let's publish it. So, I mean, you can make a really nice dashboard, everybody, combining your visuals, your slicers, your filter, your buttons. We have the other slicer over here for the date range, and now even the play. Let's see if that publishes like that as well. So we'll pick on Save, and then let's pick on the Home tab. Okay, Home. Now, you can also find Publish under the File tab, but I picked on the Home tab. Come over here and pick on the word Publish. You'll get this window. Now, you guys might have other workspaces than what I have. I just have my workspace here. And then I'll click on Select. I already have one from before, so I'm just going to replace mine. And now it should say that it had success. So when you open it here, it's going to open up in the Power BI online version. So, or sometimes it's called the Power BI app or the Power BI service. If you see that word, if you see the Power BI service, that's really the online version, okay? Sometimes it's described as that. So I'm going to click where it says Open Class 1 in Power BI. Let's see what it's going to look like. Now, again, for me, it's asking me to log on. So I'm going to click on this one. Type the pass is already there. It's probably going to ask me to verify my phone again. Hold on. Okay, that's better. And then it did ask me to verify on my phone, which I will do. And that got me in. Let's check out what the published report looks like. This is what the end user would say. Now, everybody, let's see. Oh, right now we only have one page. If we had more than one page, the page would be over here on the left. You see your filters on the right. The slices work. Now, notice you tell the user that they can pick the slicer. Once you add that Apply All Slicers button, they do have to use that. So they can choose what they want for the slicers, or even pick a different date range, and then say Apply All Slicers. And it did change that. And then let's try the Clear All Slicers button. That's working. And let's try our play, right? So I'll pick on the play button, and it's going by employee, and it is changing. So the ones with the higher numbers are up at the top. This is a pretty decent dashboard for the short time that we've been in the class, but I know some of this we covered last time, but I'm trying to give you more of a complete package right now. All right, so is it working on the published version, everybody? And even if they had the Power BI app on the phone, they would be able to run this report. So you certainly want to publish it if you want other people to be able to view the report. Now, let me show you other features that you can do once it's published. Follow my mouse over here. I'm going to click on the pull down where it says File. So I can save a copy, I can download it, print it. I can embed that onto a different web page or even make a QR code. Let's click where it says Export. We can send that to Excel, PowerPoint, or even a PDF. Now, let's click on the word Share, everybody. Now, so I have the paid version of Power BI. Hopefully you do as well, because otherwise you're getting a message right now that says you have to get the paid version in order to share it. So you type in people's email addresses. So I'll type in one of my own email addresses, like my private one. So that's going to send an email to that person. Oh, it says it has to be within my organization. Okay, so let me try another one. Yeah, so it's telling me it has to be within the same domain as what I used before. I gotcha. Let me see this one. And that's probably true for you as well. Yeah, so it has to be the same domain as, your company. So for you guys, I'm sure it's not an issue. But that would send that person a link to the report, and then they can actually run the report. All right, so make sure you can see where it says share there. You can also set an alert, means if somebody ran that visual or changed it, you would be alerted about that. So that's another good choice for you. Now, let me show you another thing we can do with the published report, everybody. Once it's published, that should actually show up in Teams as well. Let's see if that's the case. So I'm going to go back into Teams here. And you would go to a team that you have control over or that you're the admin for. So I'm going to go to Teams. So you imagine in Power BI, you would have published it, and then it actually should show up in Teams, or it's accessible in Teams. I should say that. Any questions about what we're doing, everybody? So this is some topics that Kat wanted me to cover today, is to make sure you guys know how to publish it, how to make those dashboards. I'm just saying you once you do publish it, it should actually show up in Teams if my Teams comes up. Teams is always a little bit slow. Okay, so I'll wait till Teams comes up. When it does, I'll bring that up for you. All right, but anyway, we were able to publish that report. Everything still works. Notice how you have your filters over here on the right. So even we can use this. So you show your users how to actually make this work. Tell them that when they use the slicer, if they want to choose more than one, they would hold down the control key, as you can see. Now, like I said, once you use that apply all slicers window button, you really have to do it at that time. That can be helpful when there is a lot of data, because otherwise it's refreshing each time. So these are all helpful tips. And now it did update the visual. Let's go back into Power BI now, everybody. And we're back to here. And then you can see it had success in publishing that. So I'm going to pick in the word got it. All right. So you're getting ideas of how to sort and filter the visuals. I talked about optimizing it, where you can pause it, right? So that'll be good. That'll save you some time. And then when you're ready to see the full effect of everything you've done, you say refresh visuals. Over here where it says apply all slicers button, that's the same thing as we did, except we found it under the insert tab. In this case, I'm going to get everything back again. I'll click on that clear all slicers, or when you're here, I'll say control click, and then everything should be back again. Good. All right. Now, let's say on that visual, I wanted to have the sum of the orders and maybe also the count. So what I'll do about that is follow my mouse over here. I want you to click on this tile on the main tile for the chart. Come over here to the right, and we'll add another field into the x-axis there. So each of these different sections could have as many as you want. Let's come back over here to the right and scroll down and get the order ID. I'll pick up the order ID and drag it into that x-axis below the sum of the order amount. See that green line? That tells me the order ID will be below the sum, and the order does matter. It's going to take it top down. Now, usually you'll have number fields there. Now watch what you can do with number fields, everybody. I'm going to click on the pull down for the sum, and then you have other kinds of math. Sum, average, minimum, maximum, distinct count, regular count, the standard deviation, variance, and median. Or if you move your mouse to where it says show values as, then we can also do that as the percent of grand total. If I click on the pull down for the order ID, we see different choices there. I want that one to be a count. So that's how you can get different calculations. Now, when I did that, I was hoping to see two numbers there. Let me see if we have to turn on the data labels again. So come back over here and click on the paintbrush. And the data labels are on. So see where it says total labels. Let's see what that does. So for the total labels, I'm going to click where the word off is, and that'll turn them on. Oh, okay. So that put the numbers over there on the right. Oh, what that did, it probably added those two numbers together. So I really want those numbers to be separate. So let's turn the total labels off. Click on the pull down where it says data labels, and we'll see some other settings there. So I'm going to scroll down here and then click on the word value. Now, the one that you might be interested in is the display unit. So you can make it none or thousands or millions or billions. So I want to add another label into there. So click where it says add data under the value section, and we'll add the order ID again. So I'm going to click on the pull down where it says orders, and we'll use the order ID, and that should be the count. Let me close that window here. Now, that's not giving me the result that I'm really looking for. So I'm really just going to remove that field and go back to this icon here where we can change the fields and get rid of that count. So I'm back to the x-axis. I'm going to click on the x here, so it just has the original sum. Okay. So what that is showing us the sum for each individual customer. Now, let me save my work and go back to the different topics I wanted to talk about today. So we talked about those relationships, and I showed you how important the relationships were. If you make a visual that has fields from more than one table, and those tables are not joined together, then it'll give you too much information, like we saw on that one example. Or if you use tables that are joined together on the wrong field, of course, that'll give you a completely blank visual. So, of course, the relationships are very important. Let me go back to these topics here. We're going to get into our formulas pretty soon. Probably on the next session, we'll get into our formulas. We talked about the sorts and filters. So we did the filtering in the Power Query, the filtering in the visuals, the slicers, I talked about the optimizations, especially when you have your large data. Let me make sure you know how to do that top 10 again. So I'm going to go back into Power BI. To do the top 10, I'm going to click on the actual tile, and you're going to find that here under the visuals. I mean, under the filters. You choose the section where it says filters on this visual, and then see where it says filter type. I'm going to click in the pull down, and then, usually it says basic filtering, but in this case, I'll say top N. Then we chose the top 10. Then here, I move the order amount field. And of course, even there, I can click on that pull down and get different calculations, the sum, the average, and so on. Then you would apply that filter, and now we see the top 10. Okay? So if I wanted to see all of the items back again, everybody, then I'm going to come back over here. We can click on that little eraser for the filter, where it says clear filter. And now you'll see everything is back for that visual. All right, but I like that top 10. I think it's kind of interesting. Now come back over here where it says filter type and click on that pull down. And let's see what happens if I go to where it says advanced filtering. So then you can do things like contains, does not contain, starts with, is blank, is empty, and all those. So maybe you weren't aware about that. On the screen for the filters, I changed it to say filter type, and I changed it to say advanced filtering. And now you have all those choices. So I want the ones that, let's see. Let's get all the ones that start with the letter C. I'm going to click here where it says contains. We'll say starts with. And then right below that, I'll type in the letter C. Come down here and pick on apply filter. And then notice that I changed the report for just the ones that have the letter C in there. What if we want the ones that contain the letter C? So I'll click on the where it says starts with, and we'll say contains the letter C. I'll pick on apply filter, and of course, there's a lot more that have the letter C somewhere in the name. Right, so I'm just trying to give you lots of good choices here. Let's go back and get everything back again. So move your mouse back to the filter section, and then click on that eraser where it says clear filter. And now everything is back. Very good. All right. Questions or comments? Let me go ahead and play the report now. So I'll pick on the play button that we added in, and that's going to go through the whole thing. And if you notice, for each different employee of the play button, it is putting the top customer up there. I think that's a pretty good dashboard. Excellent. I just saved the work there. Now, see these little extra icons, everybody, for each different visual? If you want to turn those off, that was going to be under the Format tab, and that was called Edit Interaction. So if you click on the word Edit Interactions here, that'll turn it back off if they're getting in the way for you. But it should still work. So if I click on the play button, yeah, it is changing. So the higher customer for each employee is showing up there. Very good. All right. I'm going to save. Now let's go to our next page here in the report. So I'm going to pick on the plus sign here. Another visual that people like is the Q&A visual. And this is where we can ask questions of our data, and you can ask them in English. Then you can actually train it with your own terminology. So you can see I'm on a blank page. Let's come back over here and click on this visual. When you move your mouse there, it'll say Q&A. So I'm going to click that. And then we have another tile. So It says it's preparing the Q&A. Now I'm going to make that visual bigger. Now, everybody, look where I'm going to click. I want you to click where it says ask a question about your data. So I'm going to say, let's see, which customer has the most orders? Now, when you first type in the question, it might not understand it, might not understand what you're trying to ask, but we'll be able to train it. So I'm going to press the enter key here and see if it comes up with anything that's meaningful. So it actually came up with a result. It says Save-A-Lot has 31 orders. Okay. Which customer has the most orders? And it says Save-A-Lot. All right. So let's try another question. Let's say sort the customers by the number of orders. And then it came up. You can see how Save-A-Lot is first, and then Ernst is there, and then the next customer, and so on, right? So you can actually start to ask your questions in English and get some pretty good responses here. And then if we publish this, the user will be able to do the same thing. What I would do is I would take some time to give it some synonyms. So you'll be able to use your own words in asking the question. Follow my mouse. Now it's right here on this visual. So I'm going to click where it says add the synonyms now. Oh, and then you'll get this whole other window, everybody. So you can give the table a different name, or each individual field a different name, okay? So I'm not concerned about the categories table, so let's scroll down further. Okay, then we see some other tables. So let's expand the customers table. So right now it says customer 6. Well, I want to just be able to type in the word customers there. So look where my mouse is. Here it says customer 6. That's the table. And then each one of these is the different columns in that table. For the table here, I'll pick in the word add, and then I'll say customers and press the enter key. And then once it typed in that name, it added the word customer automatically. Then it gives us some suggestions over here. So maybe I want to call them clients. I'll just click the X here. Consumers, you know. If you don't like any of those words, come over here and pick on add and type in your own word. But we have customers now. We have the word customer by itself. You can add as many as you want. Okay, good. So that should be good for that table. Now let's scroll down to the orders table. Or let's do the employees also. So I'm going to expand the employees table. Here's the table name. So I'll pick on add. So let's say the employees could be salespeople. It also added a salesperson, which is good. So that could be maybe use the word seller. I'll click on the X next to the word seller, and that'll add that in. All right, so that should take care of the employees table. And then I'm going to scroll down to the orders table. Here's the orders table. So let me expand that. And for the orders table itself, I'll pick in the word add. So I'll call that sales. And add the word sale. Transaction. I'll click on the word, click on the extra transaction here. I want to be able to call it an order instead of just saying orders for. So I'll pick on add and I'll type in orders there. So I will spend some time on this window So you give the tables or the fields your own terminology so you can use your own words in the questions. So this looks pretty good. We did the customers and the employees and the orders table. We gave them all better names. Now come over here and click on the X to close that window. Now let's ask another question, and now it'll probably do better for us. It says it's preparing that again. Okay. So let's change the question. Let's say, how many sales did each salesperson have? See, I'm using the words that we just gave it, right? So I have how many sales did each salesperson have? And then press the enter key. Good. So now it knows what we're talking about. So Margaret had 134, Nancy had 118, and Janet had 113. Good. Let's say, now let's see if it can recognize something like this. What customer had the most sales last month? So it says, which date do you want to use? Well, we'll use the order date. See, it's relatively intelligent. So I'm going to go ahead and click on order date there. So Burks had 3 and Gatos had 3. You know what I mean? So you can really start to get some nice results here. Let's say, show a list of every customer who has at least one order this year. So, I mean, then I'll use the order date again. And these are show a list of every customer who has at least one order this year. So it didn't show me anything there. So we'll change it to say show a list of every customer. But you get the idea. You can really train this to give you the results that you're looking for. You can keep on going back and add more synonyms as you use it more and more. Now, once you have that end result, I want to convert that to a normal visual. So if you follow my mouse, everybody, I'm going to click on this little icon here. You have to really look for it. It says turn this Q&A result into a standard visual. Then you can do everything else that you want to do with that. So I'm going to click that little icon. And then it did make it into a standard visual. Notice how you can filter on all of those fields now in the filter section. Now look, all the columns are over here in this part. And you can work with that like any other visual. All right? I kind of like that Q&A visual. This one probably has to be wider. Yeah, it goes all the way across because we didn't tell it which fields not to use. So we used all the fields. Let's go ahead and save that. I think when you use that, first of all, people like it. But second of all, take the time to really train it. Now, another way you can train it, this is the way we used to have to train it before the synonyms were actually on that visual. You come up here and pick in the modeling tab. On the modeling tab, you click where it says Q&A setup, and then that'll bring you back to that same window where we added the synonyms. All right? I thought that was a really interesting visual that you can start to use. Go ahead and raise your hands if you got that to work, everybody. So for this next section, I am going to show you a couple more visuals that I think you'll find to be very helpful. But in this section, we're going to cover formulas that can be made. So you can make formulas in the Power Query window. I want to give you a couple of those examples. Those are good for like simple formulas. So I'm going to show you how to add a column, and then there's something that's called a custom column, a conditional column. Now, when you add something to the Power Query window, let's go back to this other slide. The data will get processed before it goes into the Power BI window. So those formulas will show up in the Power BI window, all right? Now, on the other hand, those are going to use the M language. And I'm going to show you a couple examples of those, all right? You can also use the Power Query to help you clean up your data. Now, then there's the formulas made in the Power BI window. So there's something that's called a column. That'll show up in the table view also. Now, it's kind of interesting. If you add a formula in the Power BI window, they are not going to show up when you go back to the Power Query because the Power Query is kind of the data before it gets to the Power BI. So it doesn't see anything after that point. So you will be able to see it in the table view, but you won't be able to see that field in the Power Query window. Now, the columns and the measures and even the quick measures use the DAX language. DAX means data, analysis, expressions. It's kind of a buzzword right now that you might have heard of, the DAX formulas. So I'm going to show you how to make those. Now, the measures, on the other hand, those will, when you make a measure, it's still going to use the DAX language. Those are more like cumulative totals. They don't really show up in the table view, but what you would have to do is you'd have to add those into a visual to be seen. So I'll show you a couple of those. And then there's some built-in ones that are called quick measures. And I like the quick measures because you can get nice results without having to know the DAX language. I've been programming for a long time, and to me, the DAX language is not the most intuitive language that I've seen. And I think you'll see a couple examples of that, as we go through. So we might have one more break, we'll say, but we're going to do a lot of formulas. And then as I'm building the formulas, we'll make a couple more visuals as well. So this is going to take it really to the next level. So why would you add formulas? Well, it's just for further data analysis. I'm going to press the escape key out of my PowerPoint. And let's go back into Power BI. All right. There's that visual that we were working on. And I'm sure we'll see some more. Oh, I know what I can show you. I can add another button now. So maybe on your dashboard, you want to have an easy way for them to go page to page. So let's say I want a button down here that'll go to the previous page and the next page and those kind of things. So that's just another button. I'm going to click on the Insert tab up at the top. Over here, it says Buttons. So I'd like to go, the left arrow is going to take us to the previous page, and the right arrow can go to the next page. So I'll pick on the left arrow there. Now, when you first add the button, it's going to put it here in the corner. So I'll pick it up and drag it down here. All right. Now I do want to go to page 1, and on page 1, we'll have a button, that'll go to the next page, just to make it more complete. So I'm back on page 1 now. Obviously, you can do this on every page. Then I'll pick on the buttons at the top, and this time I'll use the right arrow. You can see how it puts the button over here. So you're just going to move it down to where you want that. I'll put it on the same row as the other buttons. Let's see if it really works. And of course, that would show up when you publish it. Move your mouse to this arrow that we just made on page 1. And with that one, we might have to tell it what to, oh, I see. With that one, we have to tell it what to do. So I want you to click on that button. It should be selected like mine is. Now you should have a new window over here that says Format Button. So you can change the shape of it and the style and so on. But what's very important is to give it an action. So see where it says action here. Click on the word off to turn it on. Now let's expand where it says action. And for the type, I'm going to click on the pull down. And let's say we'll do, let me think about that. Oh, back means the previous page. So let's see what page navigation says. Okay, good. We'll do page navigation. And for the destination, I'll pick page 2. So that'll work out. Good. Now let's do the same thing on the button that's on page 2. So I'm going to come down to page 2 at the bottom. Let's click on the arrow pointing to the left. It should be selected like that. Now you should have this window that says Format button. We're going to turn that action on, of course. Click on the pull down where it says Action. Once again, click on the pull down where it says Type. And again, I'll choose Page Navigation. And for the destination, we'll choose page 1. All right, so you can put these on the various pages. Let's see if it's going to work. I just clicked away from it. Move your mouse to the arrow pointing to the left. This time it says Control click. Of course, when you publish it, it'll just say click. So I'll do Control click, and it did bring me back to page 1. Go ahead and now I'll use the right arrow, and I'll do Control click, and that'll bring me to page 2. All right, so we just made it even more automated for the end user, which is the whole point. So that's just another enhancement for your dashboards. Okay. I did have that on my to-do list to cover today. So notice when we pick on the Insert tab, a text box is just like, a label or a piece of text. Now you know what the buttons are. You can change each one of those to do different actions. The shapes are like geometric shapes, for various reasons, especially the arrows. You might want to point out something. And then, of course, an image would just be like any kind of picture you would add to the screen. All right, so make sure you can use those to enhance your dashboard. Now, when I just taught the class, I think it was even like last week, this spark line was not there. That's a new feature. So I'm going to have to check that one out. I haven't used it myself yet, so I'd like to see what that spark line does. Maybe for the next time. Okay. I'd like to find out for myself. It's a new feature. So let me go ahead and save my work. Now, everybody, let's go follow my mouse over here to the left, and I'll pick on the table view. So the table view is where you can see the raw data for each individual table, okay? First, I want to show you a couple formulas that we would do in the Power Query window. Come over here to the right, and right-click on the Order Details table. So I'm going to, go ahead and click on the Order Details table, and we'll see it has the order ID, the product ID, the unit price, and the quantity. I would really like to see the unit price times the quantity. So that's a simple form that we'll do within the Power Query window. I'm going to come over here to the right-click on the Order Details table, and then you pick on the word Edit Query. And then guess what? That'll bring it back to the Power Query window. This is really called the Power Query Editor. Watch how we're going to add a new column here. Click on the word Add Column up at the top. Come over here to the left and pick on the word Custom Column right there. And then you can do your own formula. This is really the end language is what we're going to use. And I'll show you we can find more examples. So for the new column name, let's type in line total. Notice the fields are over here on the right side of that window. Double click on the word unit price. If I double click on that, it'll put that into the formula. Type in the asterisk for multiplication and double click where it says quantity. So now the formula says unit price times the quantity. Of course, it could be a bigger formula, but you get the idea. We're using the field names in the formula. Otherwise, the math is the same as always. Now, everybody, when you have a chance, click where it says Learn about Power Query Formulas, and it'll give you more information and more examples. And those could be fairly complicated formulas. That even has its own function language, like Excel functions, all right? But now you know where to go. Like if you click on that link, it'll give you many more examples and lots of descriptions. Good. So let's click OK. And you'll see that column. It'll show up here. It'll also show up when we go back to that to the table view on the other window. So that was called a custom column. Now, when you're on this window, go ahead and close that window at the very top on the right-hand side, and it'll ask you if you want to keep your changes. Usually you do. So I'll say yes there. Now, whatever you do in that Power Query window will show up on the Power BI side. See, I'm back on the table view, and when it refreshes, there's the new field, and now that can be added into a visual. All right. Let's try another calculation on the Power Query side. Come back over here to the right click on the orders table, and I'll pick on edit query. And we're back to here. Now, in this table, I see if you scroll over to the right a little bit, I have the ship date and the order date. I'd like to see how long it took to ship that order. That's something that people always ask for, right? So it's just another one of those calculations. I'm going to come up to the top and pick on the Add Column tab, and I'll pick on the word Custom Column on the left, and we're back to here. So for this column name, I'm going to call it days to ship. How many days did it take to ship that order? Double click on the word ship date right there. If I double click on that, it'll put that into the formula. Type in the minus sign and double click where it says order date. Right, so now it says ship date minus the order date. Of course, that could be a bigger formula. You can find more examples over here where it says learn about Power Query formulas. So when you make a formula here in the Power Query, it's called the M language. So I'll click OK. Now you'll see a new column that's called days to ship on the right-hand side. I don't really like the way that looks, so watch what I'll do. Come over here and right-click where it says days to ship. Click on the word transform, and then choose the word days there. And now that looks better. So the Power Query has a lot of things that you can use to clean up your data as well. Like, for example, I see the ship region. And a lot of the ship regions say the word null, which is it's really empty. Instead of the ship region that says no, I want it to say no region or something, it's just an example. So go ahead and click on the ship region column here. Now let's go back to the Home tab up at the top. I'll click on Home, follow my mouse, and click where it says Replace Values. Replace Values can also be found under the Transform tab, or I bet if you right-clicked on that column, you would find one that says Replace Values. So I'll pick in the word Replace Values, and I'll type in the word null, N-U-L-L, like I spelled on the table, and then I'm going to replace that with no region, just as an example. I'm going to click OK, and that's exactly what happened. So the Power Query can be used in many ways to help you clean up your data. That was just a small little example. Let's close that window at the very top and apply our changes. Whatever you do in that Power Query window is going to show up here on the Power BI side when it refreshes. Okay. Let's do one more formula on the Power Query side. This is going to be more of a conditional formula. This would be more like an if that you would see in Excel. Come over here to the right. Scroll down so that we can see the products table. All right, I'll click on products. And we have a list of the products. Well, I want to see if something has to be reordered or not. So I'm going to come over here to the right-click on the products table, and I'll pick on Edit Query. And of course, we're back over the Power Query window. Now, this time, everybody, come up here and click on the Add Column tab. And then come over here and click when this says Conditional Column, all right? So we did Add Column and then Conditional Column. This is more like an if that you would see in Excel, like this. For the name, I'm going to call it Reorder. On the line that says if, click on this first pull down, and we'll look at the units in stock. Click where it says equals, and I'll say is greater than or equal to. Go ahead and click on this ABC 1, 2, 3 because I can compare it to a column or a value. Let's say select a column. Click on the next pull down over, and we're going to compare it to the reorder level. So if the units in stock is greater than or equal to the reorder level, that means I have enough of that one. I don't have to order that one right now. Come over here to the next blank space and type in the word no. That'll be the response for the function. You can make it more complicated by adding more clauses, almost like a nested if that you would see in Excel. So I'll pick on add a clause. On the line that says else if, click on that pull down and we'll check to see if it's really discontinued. So I'll pick on the word discontinued there. Equals is fine here. Click on the next space over and I'll type in the word true. If discontinued equals true, that means it is discontinued, so I don't have to order that one. Come over here to the right and type in no. Come down here on the line that says else, click on that space and I'll type in yes. So everybody, the way we got here, we picked on the add column tab. The other one that we did was called the custom column. This one is called the conditional column. It's more like an if that you would see in Excel. You can make it more complicated by adding more clauses. So let's see. If units in stock is greater than or equal to the reorder level, that means I have enough. So I don't have to order that one. I have no over there. If discontinued equals true, that means it is discontinued, so I don't have to order that one. I have no over there. Otherwise, I have yes. Go ahead and click OK. Now you'll see on the right-hand side, I have a new column that's called reorder. And some of them say no, and some of them say yes. Then, of course, I can use that in my visuals or even filter on that. Now, if you want to change those formulas, you come over here to the right with these applied steps, and those are going to accumulate for the table. Now, the other one would have said add a custom column. This one says add a conditional column. So you look for that line, you go to the right of that and click on the settings wheel, and then you'll be able to view or change that formula. I wanted to make sure you saw that because it's not really obvious. All right. So that is how you can add your formulas into the Power Query window. And you would do that for, simple formulas like that. I'm going to click OK. And then close that overall window up at the top. And of course, we want to apply our changes. So I'll say yes. Now, it'll then update the Power BI window. Okay. I'm sure if I scroll to the right of the products table, I see that discontinued and even the reorder, that I can use those in my visuals. All right. Now we want to start adding formulas here on the Power BI side. So let's come over here, everybody. Go to the right and click on the orders table. We're going to use the orders table for a lot of the rest of the class. It's kind of a main table in what we're doing. So if you notice, the orders table has the order ID and the customer ID and the employee ID, the order date. Scroll over to the right, and we see the rest of the columns, including the order amount. There's the days to ship that we just added a while back. So I want you to right-click on the orders table on the right, and then we're going to use these top three for a lot of the rest of the class. So the ones to start with are the ones that say a new column. If you add a new column, it's similar to what we just did in the Power Query window. Use this maybe for simpler type of formulas, and those will show up here in the table view. Let's try an example. I'd like to add sales tax. So I'm going to pick a new column right there. Now watch closely. If you're on the right side of the table, like I am, it added a blank column right there. And if you follow my mouse, you're now on the formula bar that you might see in Excel. So here's how these formulas are going to be laid out. You have the name of the field, then the equal sign, then the formula. All right. So you have the name, the equal sign, then the formula. So I could just type in on the formula bar, I'll type in sales tax for the name, type in the equal sign. Now it will help you a little bit. So type in the letter O, and it'll start to give you everything that starts with the letter O. There's functions that start with the letter O. If you scroll down, you'll see the fields for the orders table. And I want you to click on the order amount right there. If you click on that, it'll put that into the formula. And then I'll say times 0.07. So I'm over here in New Jersey and we have 7% sales tax. So that's an example of a DAX formula. DAX means data analysis expressions. You can find many more of the M formulas online. You can find many more of the DAX formulas online. And I'm going to give you some that are already prepared as we go through this afternoon. So it says sales tax equals orders for order amount times 0.07. Of course, that's a simpler one, and it can become very complicated. So go ahead and click on that check mark to the left of the formula. It says the word commit. It's kind of a strong word, right? So I'll pick on the word commit. Now watch what happens on the right over here. Now I have the sales tax, and if I scroll over to the right, there should be real numbers there. Good. Then I can use that in my visuals. So those are kind of similar to the formulas that we added in the Power Query window, right? We can see those on the table view. Now here's something that's interesting. If I go back into the Power Query window, I won't see the sales tax. Let me demonstrate. I'm going to right click on the orders table and I'll pick on the word edit query. Now we're back in that window. I'm going to scroll to the right and the sales tax is not on this window. And I'll show you why. Going back to my picture that I made. See, the Power Query is the view of the data before it gets to the Power BI. So it doesn't even know that that field exists in the Power Query window. I know it seems weird because we just added that field in the Power BI, but the Power Query is kind of the view before it goes into the Power BI. All right, so we're still up here, whereas that other field is down here. I know it's weird, but that's exactly what's going on. So anyway, I'm going to minimize the PowerPoint and go back to what we're doing. Let's close out of the Power Query window. I'm going to close that window here. It didn't make any changes, so it should be fine. But see how that field is going to show up in the table view. And then we could also add that to a visual. Let me show you some interesting ones that I have lined up, and then I have some that are going to be more complicated than that. Everybody okay so far? Caps and Shannon, you follow along? All right. Thank you, Caps and Shannon. Shannon's good. Perfect. All right. So I'm going to save my work. I like to save when I get something working like that. It's always a good idea. Now, you see how that sales tax has, decimal places. I wouldn't. What we can do is you can click on the sales tax column. Now, notice how you'll have a new tab even here on the Power BI window. I have one that's called Column Tools. Then I can change the format right over here. So if you want to, we'll make that currency format. Under Column Tools, I have the format. I'll pick on currency. And it's going to refresh again. And it looks better now, right? And even we'll change the decimal places to be like 2 decimal places. Right, here's the decimal places right there. So I'll make it 2. And even that looks better. All right, so you see some familiar formatting icons there. All right, no problem. Let me add another one. Now, let's go back to the customers table over here on the right. I'm going to come over here to the right, scroll back up to the customers table. right click on the customers table, and let's do a few more of these columns. So I'll say new column. Now I think it's going to bring us to the customers table. If not, we'll go there. Yeah, we're on the customers table. It added a new column on the right. Notice how it puts you on the formula bar. I'd like to see the first time that each customer made an order. So let's type in first order date as the name, first order date. I'll type in the equal sign. Now, this is going to be a DAX function. So type in the letter F. It'll show you a lot of things to start with the letter F, including there's one that says first date. Okay, click that, please. And in our case, it's going to be the first time that each customer made an order. So now the parentheses is there. Type in the letter O, and now it'll show you all the things to start with the letter O. Scroll down and click on the order date column there, and then close the parentheses. Now you could, go further with that information, but we don't need to. So close that parentheses, and let's see what it says. The name of the field is first order date equals first date, open parentheses, orders for, order date, close parentheses. So that would be really difficult to do in Excel to see like the earliest date like that. But here in Power BI, it's built right in. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the check mark to commit that. And then notice the column on the right, it's going to say first order date. So now we can really see the first time that each customer made an order. Good. And remember, way back at the beginning of the class, we said only show me the orders starting from 2000. So even though there used to be some orders from 1998, well, this is already the filtered data. Good. Let's add another like that. I'd like to see the last time that each customer made an order. So I'm going to right click on the customers table again. Now, don't worry about that format. You can either format it here or you can format that on the visual. It's not, you can trim off that time, of course, on either here or on the visual. So here I'll pick a new column again. You can see how it's going to add a blank column on the right, if you look closely. And then we're back on the formula bar. So I'll type in last order date. What was the last time they made an order? I'll type in the equal sign. I'll type in the open parentheses. No, I'm sorry. After the equal sign, I need the function. So just type in the letter L. And then there's one that's called last date, among others. So you can Google all of these and find good examples, but does it tell you what they do? Not really. So here on this screen, it just has the name of the functions. It doesn't really tell you what they do, but you can Google all those and find examples of those, So, but these are all what they call DAX formulas. So I'm going to double click on where it says last date. Good. I'll type in the letter O, scroll down on this list and choose the order date from the orders table, and then close the parentheses. So this is what it really should say. Last order date equals last date, open parentheses, orders for, order date, close parentheses. Go ahead and click on that check mark. And then we have the last order date for each customer. Some of them are going to be in 2024, as you can see, because I added some extra data so we can see more recent data. So a lot of these have 2024. This guy hasn't ordered in a while, right? Back to 2000. A lot of them say 2024. There's a couple of 2000s in there, and so on. Good, right? So when we add those columns, everybody, let's go back to that slide that I made. Well, that slide shows you that if we put something in the Power BI side, it does not show up in the Power Query, as I just demonstrated. But if you put something in the Power Query, it will show up in the Power BI, the table view. But let's take a look at that again. Right now, we're making these columns. They do show up in table view. They will not show up in the Power Query window as I demonstrated, and they use the DAX language. All right. And I think, let me see if I had some more examples of that. I did the first state, the last state. Oh, another good one. Actually, let's do those two. The date diff and the date add. You might recognize date diff from Excel. So I want to see how many days or years are between two different dates. So that could be either second, minute, hour, day, week, month, quarter, or year. How long of a period is between two dates? Date add means I want to add so many years, months, quarters, or days to a certain date to get the end result. Good. So let's see. Let me show you the date diff. I'd like to see maybe how long somebody has been a customer. All right, that's something that people always want to know. How long has that person been a customer? Well, think about it. If we take that first order date and then use today's date and get the difference in years, then we know how long they're going to be how long they have been a customer. Let's try it. Go back into Power BI. I'm still in the customers table, so we're going to add another one of those columns. I'm going to right click on the customers table here, and I'll say new column. You can see it added a blank column on the right. Now we're back in the formula bar. So let's call it age of customer. Yeah, I'm trying to find the right word for that. You could say how long have they been a customer. It's the field name. So I'll say age of, no, that doesn't sound right. How about how long? We'll just say how long. Um, that's fine. How long equals, so I'm going to say date diff. Type it in, date diff, open parentheses. And then it does give you the syntax here. And it tells you what it does. Now, the first date is actually going to be today's date. Just like in Excel, there's a built-in function for today's date, and it is called today, as it is in Excel. So I'll type in the word today there. Today. Now, the today function needs parentheses, even though there's nothing in the parentheses. So I'll say open parentheses, close parentheses, comma. Then I'll start typing in the word first order date. I'll type in the F there and the I, and then the first order date should show up somewhere here. Let me scroll down. There it is, right above the word filter. If you scroll up, there's the customer's first order date that we did, right? So I'm going to click that. Good. That should be okay. Type in a comma, and now the period is either going to be day, month, quarter. We're going to pick on year, right? So it does help it a little bit as you type these in. I'll pick on year and then close the parentheses. So I just couldn't think of anything else. I'm sorry. So the field's called how long equals date diff, open parentheses, today, open parentheses, close parentheses, comma, customer 6, first order date, comma, year. That should give us the number of years, that they've been a customer. Go ahead and click on the check mark over here to the left. Let's see if it worked. Now, if this gives you a negative number, then I know it did give us a negative number, right? How come those are 2 years? Wait. Oh, no, it says 24. So if that gives me a negative number, that tells me that the first order date should be first, and then today's date should be second. So I'll just make that adjustment in the formula. I'm going to come up here to the formula, click inside of that first parentheses and get rid of that word today there. Get rid of that comma. So it should say customer 6, first order date. Click right after that comma and then type in the word today, open parentheses, close parentheses, comma, year. So I just switched those parameters. So now it says date diff, open parentheses, customer 6 first order date, comma, today, comma, year. And that should make it a positive number. Let me click on the check mark again, and that's better. And you can see that some of the, a lot of these have been customers for 24 years. Now, it's interesting. Some of these don't have a first order date. So maybe they had ordered in 1998, right? And maybe we took off those orders, and they're not even showing here. So that's interesting. Some of them don't even have an order because I guess we took off the orders when we did the first filter. And that's fine. All right, good. So I've been talking for a while. Just give you an indication that you're following along. Caps and Shannon, you're good. Caps is good. Shannon's good. Thank you for that. So you guys are like the survivors. Everybody has been voted off the island. There was like 5 or 6 people before, but they couldn't handle it. I'm just kidding. No, they all told me they had different appointments and so on. But we do have the recording here, of course. Let's go ahead and save. So you get the idea of these columns, You can do this on any table, of course. Of course, you can go back to the Power Query and do the formulas there. But in this case, I'm trying to show you some of the DAX formulas because we really haven't covered these in the previous sessions. So you right-click on that table name. Obviously, those were the new columns. Now, let me see if there's one more example I can do. All right, we'll do like, let me think. There's another function that's called date add, where you can add a period of time to a date to get to another date. But I really can't think of an example where that would apply. But you get the idea of these. Now, everybody, let's go ahead and save our work because I have some of these already prepared for you. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go way back to the original Excel file that we started with. So I'm going to go into my files here, and it's still in that same folder. And let's double click on the student file new once again. So we're going to go back into here because I think I even showed you that last sheet. There's going to be some of these formulas built in for you. All right, so we're back to this workbook. Now follow my mouse, everybody. Remember how we made that one into a formatted table? Come down to the bottom and right-click on the arrow pointing to the right. I'm going to right-click there. You see a list of all the sheets. Now scroll all the way down to the very, very bottom sheet, and there should be a sheet that's called Power BI Power Pivot Formulas. You see the DAX formulas can also be used in the Power Pivot when you get into that with Excel. You use the same DAX. So find the sheet that's called Power BI Power Pivot Formulas and click OK. Good. Now I have some prepared for you. Go to cell E4. Now, column C tells you what table you're gonna update in the Power BI. Column D tells you whether it's a new column or pretty soon we'll get to the measures. And then column E has the actual formula. So these should really work. Now here it's using another function that's called related. Related is pretty good. It's kind of like a VLOOKUP that you would see in Excel, except those two tables have to be joined back on that model view for that to work. So if I look at cell E4, the name of the field is going to be called company name. It's going to grab the company name from the customers table and put it in the orders table. But if the customers table and the orders table were not joined together in the model view, then this would give you an error. So when we use that related function, the two tables have to be joined together. So go ahead and right-click. This should be, a working formula. I tested most of these. So go ahead and right-click on cell E4 and pick on copy. Go back to Power BI now. All right. Now we're back in Power BI. Come over here to the right I'm going to expand the data view again. This is going to go in the orders table. So I'm going to scroll down here. Right now in the orders table, we have the customer ID, but we're not showing the customer's name. So I'm going to right click on the orders table, and we're still on the new columns. Pretty soon we'll do the new measures and even the new quick measures. Those are coming. So I'll do a new column. You're going to see it's going to switch you over to the orders table. It's going to add a new column on the right, and we're back in the formulas bar. Usually you'd have to type in the DAX formula, but now your buddy Tom here has some of these worked out for you. So I'm just going to paste it in. We'll just do Control V on the keyboard, Control V, and that pasted it in. Good. So it should be called company name equals. When you use that related function, it's kind of like the VLOOKUP, except for the two tables have to be joined together, which they are, and it'll grab the company name from the customer's table. Now, isn't this interesting? It has the second line of the code over there. These formulas can get very long, and it would actually number the lines. We're going to see a couple longer ones in a few minutes. So go ahead and click on the check mark, and we have a new column that's called company name. Now we have the customer's table. I mean, we have the company name built into the orders table, right? So now you see the purpose of the related function. Let's try another one like that. Go back to Excel again. All right, I'm back in my Excel spreadsheet. Notice how I have a couple examples of that related function, but I'll just show you one more. Maybe I want to get the shipper's name from the shipper's table and put it in the orders table. Now I'm in cell E5. Right, click on E5 and pick on copy. Go back to Power BI now. See, I didn't want to make this into a typing class, you know. And with these formulas, you get one little thing wrong and it's not going to work. So that only comes with trial and error. So I'm going to right click on the orders table over here on the right, and I'll say the word new column. We're back to this other window. You're going to see it out of the column on the right. We're back in the formula bar. And now I'm just going to paste it in, right? Control V. The name of the field is going to be called shipper's name. It's using that related function. It's going to grab the company name from the shipper's table. And we know that those are joined together because we did that way at the beginning. Go ahead and click on the little check mark to the left of that. And now we should see the shipper's name in the orders table. It knows which shipper goes with which order because of the relationship in the model view, right? So, you know, I have a couple of these prepared for you. I'm going to go ahead and save. So Caps and Shannon, are we getting used to work? Just give me examples, right? Shannon, are you still with me? Shannon, you haven't been voted off the island, have you? Oh, good. She's still with me. Okay, perfect. All right, excellent. The two survivors are with me. All right, excellent. So, of course, I'm going to save. So you get the idea of those columns, everybody. Somebody want to say something there? Everybody
I was
good?
just going to mention I do have to drop at 4:30.
Okay, that's fair enough. Well,
Okay.
I'll tell you what. Maybe we'll take our break at that time. We'll take one more break or something. We'll see how it goes. Okay, but
Okay. Thank you.
we'll get most of it done by that time. All right. But are you finding the class to be helpful, Shannon?
I am definitely going to have to like redo it again on my own just to make
There's
sure I'm getting it.
there's a lot of
Hmm.
information in this class, So because it was called advanced, I assume that people know the basis of Power BI, but I also wanted to cover a lot of information here. But that is why we're recording it. What I always recommend to people is use these techniques with your own data, and then it'll just become more familiar for you because you're using your own data. But there's a lot of information here for sure. But I hope it's worthwhile. All right. So let me show you another one of these columns. That's a little bit different than what the ones that we've done. Go back into Excel, please. And we're back to here. So you see the next couple have the related function. Now, if you go to cell E8, here it has the age. Now, there's actually a better way to do the age in the Power Query window, but this is the DAX formula for the age. So it's using the round down function. There's that date diff, and it's taking the birth date against today's date, and that's going to give them the age. Then I have the years of service, and that's very similar, except it's using the higher date. But you get the idea, the DAX formulas can be kind of complicated. The one I really want to use is, where is it? Oh, okay. These are a couple good examples. So there's that line total. We actually did that one in the Power Query. There's the days that we did, and it's using that date diff. We did that one in the Power Query. We have birth month. It's using the classic month function. Oh, here's one I really want to use. The number of line items in cell E15. Now, this one we haven't seen before. It's using a DAX formula that's called calculate. So anytime that you see the word calculate in the DAX formula, it's really going to do a filter. So it's going to count all the order detail records that have the same order ID as the current order. So you can see it's starting to be a little bit complicated with the DAX formulas. And then in a little while, we're going to see some that are very complicated. But go ahead and right click on E15. This is going to go in the orders table. Okay. I'm going to right click on E15 and I'll pick on copy. Let's go back into Power BI. And we're still in the orders table. So we saw that order details table once today. So now I want to see how many records are in the order details table that have the same order. So go ahead and right click in the orders table here. And I'm going to say new column again. And of course, that's going to add a new column on the right. We're in the formula bar. And now we're just going to paste it in. All right, so do Control V. Good. It's going to be called number of line items. It's using that calculate function, which really is going to do a filter. It's going to count all the order details records that have the same order ID as the current order. Go ahead and click on the check mark. Let me see what the X says. Oh, so one says commit and one says cancel. All right, so pick on the check mark that says commit. And we have the number of line items. So some of them say 2 and 3. This guy has 5. Some of these don't have any. What happened? So maybe those were records that I didn't pull in because of the dates, But see, some have the number of line items and so on. So we did limit some of our records, and maybe they just didn't pull in. But a lot of them do have at least a couple of line items. Okay, good. Now, because I have the number of line items, everybody, I want to show you a different visual. Let's go ahead and save our work. And let's go back to the report view over here on the left. And this, of course, is where we can see the visuals. I want to add a new page. So come down to the bottom and pick in the plus sign for the page again. Of course, we should be on page 3. I want to show you a visual we didn't really do yet. If you follow my mouse, it's going to be this guy over here. It says key influencer. So what this really means is we want to see if one number somehow affects another number. So let's click on key influencers right there. And it makes a new tile. This tile, we can make it be pretty big because it's going to be the only tile on that page. You can see it's still selected. Come over here to the right. You see where it says analyze? There we're going to use the original order amount. So pick up the order amount from the orders table here and drag it to where it says analyze. So look what it says. What influences the order amount to either increase or decrease? All right, so it's building. Come over here to the right, and there's a section that says explain by. So you would move another field into there. Come over here to the right, pick up the number of line items, and drag it to where it says explain by. And let's see if there's some kind of it's actually kind of like a correlation. Let's see if it gives us anything. Really, when I've done this in the past, I thought the number of line items are going to affect the order amount. I think maybe it's because we have our filter on. So tell you what, I know when I've done this in the past, the number of line items would definitely increase the order amount. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to turn our filter off that we did at the beginning of the class because I think it's having an effect now. Go ahead and save our work, everybody. Come back over here to the right and right click on the orders table. And I'm going to go back into edit query. And we're going to clear that original filter that we made. It's still actually there on the order date. See how the applied steps will accumulate for the life of that table. So click on the pull down where it says order date. And let's see. I'm going to say date and time filters. And this time I'm going to say after and this time I'm going to say 12/31/1997. And that'll bring us all the ones from 1998 and so on. All right, so now I have is after 12/31/1997. I click OK. And now it should refresh. Thought that was going to refresh. Let's close the window and see if it refreshes here. I'll say yes. Let's see if it pulls in the older data now. So it is refreshing. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, I see. We're going to remove the other filter. I know what we're going to do. Come back over here and right-click on the orders table. Go back to where it says edit query. What we're going to do is we're going to remove that other filter that's over here. So follow my mouse, find the first one that says filtered rows, and just click on that little X. That's going to remove that step. That'll bring us, are you sure you want to delete this step? Yes. So pick on the word delete. That'll get us back. Yeah, now we have the records from 1998. Okay. So we actually had to remove that filter step. That is actually how you undo something on this window. You come back and delete those steps on the right side. Now we have the full data. Go ahead and close that overall window. Say yes to apply it. And now, when I've done this in the past, the number of line items always affects the order amount on this visual. Now you can see everything is refreshing. It's doing the analysis again on this visual. There you go. That's what I was looking for. Okay, good. So what influences the order amount to increase when the sum of the line items is more than 3? The average order amount increases by 1.75 thousand. So the number of line items pretty much has a direct result on the order amount, which makes sense, right? Every store in the country knows that. When you go to Target or Walmart, at the checkout line, they have gum and batteries and everything else because they want to increase your order. But here we proved that as you add more line items, the order amount is going to increase. I kind of like this visual. It's called the key influencers. You can see if one number somehow affects another number. And, I knew that example worked for me in the past. So I know that was a lot of steps there, but Caps and Shannon, did you get that one to work? Right? Shannon, we still good? Yes. Go ahead and save that one. So that was an interesting new visual. All right. So let's keep on going. Let's go back to my examples here. So everybody, obviously you get the point of those. When you right click on a table name, those were the new columns. And the new columns, they are written in that DAX language. But if you come over here to the table view on the left, I am back in the table view. They'll actually show up here as individual columns, and you can use those like any other columns. You can sort and filter on those. You can put those into your visuals and so on. Now, let me show you the other types of calculations that are called measures. The measures are also going to use the DAX language. However, the measures, all they're going to really do is they'll show up over here on the far right. They're not going to show up here in the table view. You have to add those into a visual in order to see the measures. Let's set up another visual that we're going to use for our next couple examples. Come back over here to the left and click on the report view. There's the one that we just did, the key influencers. Let's add another page. So I'll pick in the plus sign at the bottom. Now I'm on page 4. Let me show you a visual that gets used quite a bit. If you follow my mouse over here, is this guy. It's called the matrix. And that's going to give you something that's similar to a pivot table that you would see in Excel. So I am going to pick on the matrix right there. And then we have a new tile. Now that one can fill the entire page. It's going to be the only tile on this page. So that one, I just moved it down a little bit, and then we'll stretch it out so it fills the page. Good. Let's see. Come over here to the right. Let's scroll down and get the company name from the shippers. All right, so I'm back in the shippers table. I'll pick up the company name and drag it into the rows right there. And now you can see each row is over here. Each one is a different shipper. Now, maybe I'd like to break this down by year. So we'll pick up the order date. Come back over here to the right. I'm going to scroll up so I can see the orders table. I'll pick up the order date and drag it into the columns. And then we can see I have a little bit of older data and some more recent data. And then for the numbers, we'll use the order amount. So now watch what I'm going to do first. I'm going to scroll down here so I can see the value section. I'll pick up the order amount from the left, from the right, and drag it here into the values. So pretty quickly, I was able to get a subtotal for each shipper for each year. So that would be a lot like a pivot table that you would see in Excel, right? Okay, so let's say that we're going to use that visual a few times today. Now that is showing all of the orders. There's no filter on that report whatsoever. All right. Now let's go back to Excel, everybody, because we're going to start using these measures, and I have some of these prepared for you. So go back into Excel. Now I'm on cell E16. So the name of the field is going to be called the order amount for France. There's that calculate function again. So it's going to sum all of the orders, but only where the ship country is France. So, I mean, you can see how the DAX language is starting to be a little bit complicated. I've been programming for a long time, and this is not the most intuitive language I've ever seen, but, it's the DAX language. So let's click on cell E16, right-click on it, and pick on copy. It's going to go into the orders table. Go back into Power BI. All right. Now, if you want, let's go back into the table view over here on the left. Go back to here. So you can clearly see we have the number of line items as the rightmost field. Go ahead and right click in the orders table here. Now this time, let's say a new measure. All right, new measure. Now, it did not add a column on the right-hand side. It really didn't. If I scroll to the right, there is not a blank column there like there was for the new columns, but we are in the formula bar. Now let's paste it in. So we'll do Control V. Okay. The name of the field is going to be called the order amount for France. It's going to sum all of the orders, but only for the ones where the ship country is France. Go ahead and click on the check mark there. Now, everybody, it looks like it's done. If I scroll to the right, it did not make a column that I can see here in the table view. So where is it? It's over here on the right. Notice how you have a field that's called order amount for France, right? And you can tell it's a measure because it has that different icon to the left of the word order amount for France. So what are we going to do with it? Well, you have to add that to a visual to be able to see it. So go back into the report view over here on the left. And now we're back to this visual. The number is shown for each year right now is all of the orders. Let's add in the order amount for France. Oh, I didn't show you this one yet. Here's another way to add your fields onto a visual. You can just drag it on. Come over here to the right. Find the one that when you move your mouse there, it's going to say order amount for France. Now, you can always rename these, right? Because it's starting to get a little bit weird over there. But pick up the one that says order amount for France and drag it into the visual over here. And then lift your finger. Let's see what happens. Okay. Check out federal shipping. In 1998, they had a total of $67,351.21 for all of the orders. But for France, it was only $10,660.40. So let's review that. The measures are going to use the DAX language, but you don't get to see them until you actually add them into a visual. But those are more like cumulative type of totals, you know? So Caps and Shannon, did you get the measure to work? I'm going to have a few more of these before we're done. Shannon, did you get that one? So I know it's starting to get high and deep here, right? Okay, Shannon got it. Okay, let's go ahead and save our work. You know how they say PhD, if somebody has a PhD degree, it means like pretty high and deep. You know, maybe I've heard about that joke, but we're starting to get pretty high and deep here in the class. But, you know, this is more of the advanced material. Cap says, what does the N stand for? So in other words, if I go back to that formula, now follow my mouse, everybody. Over here on the right, I'm going to actually click on the one that says order amount for France. And then you'll see the formula again on the formula bar. So it says in. So that could have been more than one country. So let's try something. What if I want to say France and Germany? We're going to enhance this a little tiny bit. You see the formula. I want you to click after the word France and type in a comma. And then do open quotes and the word Germany, and then close the quotes. So when it says in, it means either one of these countries. You know, and it could be more than just the one. When there's only one, it doesn't make any sense. But when there's two, okay, it's either France or Germany. Now, if I have the syntax right, we should see immediate results. This visual should change instantaneously. Let's see. I'm going to click on the check mark on the left. It would tell us if the syntax was incorrect. it is trying to recalculate. It did change. Did you see it? The numbers changed on the actual visual. Yeah. So now these are the numbers that are either France or Germany. So that's the syntax. In is like whatever's within the brackets. Good. So I'm going to show you how some of these measures are built in. They're going to be called quick measures. And then we can use the quick measures to kind of get results without having to know the stacks language. Now, you saw what that does. For my next example, I'd like to take the sum of the order amount, like the main number, and subtract the ones for France. So let's get rid of that word Germany. Now we know what that does. So go back to the formula here, click where the comma is, and get rid of the comma and get rid of the word Germany. So it's going to be back to the way it was. I just want the France ones. And then go ahead and click on that check mark. And it should redo the calculations. And it did. I saw a change. Okay, good. So now a lot of times when I get to this part of the class, people will ask me, okay, we see the full total here. We see the order, the total for France. Can we subtract the total from France from the full total? Now in Excel, that will be relatively easy. Here, you have to do the formula the proper way. So we'll do something that's called a quick measure. I'll do one of these for Shannon before she has to leave, and then maybe we'll take a quick break and come back from there. So watch everybody. The quick measures are built right in, and they're easier to use in my opinion. Come over here to the right click on the orders table. Now do one that says new quick measure. Let's see what happens. If I do new quick measure, you're going to get this whole other window over here. And these are ones that are built in. Okay. So I'm going to click where it says click on the pull down where it says select a calculation. So we have some like average and variance and minimum, maximum. Scroll down. The one that we just did where it said just show me the ones from France, it was called a filtered value. Okay. So that we could have done it that way. But if I want to take the main order amount and subtract the ones from France, that's called a difference from filtered value. Let's try it this way. So click where it says difference from filtered value. Okay. Then you'll have this window. They made this window easy to use in the past couple months, again, in my opinion. So the base value is always going to be some kind of number. Let's click where it says add data there. Now the tables are over here on this window. I want you to expand the orders table and then click on the original order amount. You just have to click that. And that put it here in the base value. I'm not worried about the blanks here. Watch how we're going to tell it that we want France. So click here where it says add data. Come back on this list and pick on the orders table or expand the orders table. Scroll down and pick on the word ship country. Now look, everybody, below the word ship country here, it says select a value. So we'll click on that pull down and we'll choose France. All right. So these are called quick measures. I can actually make these without having them use the DAX language. Go ahead and click on the word add there. Now, you have to look closely. It's going to wind up over here on the right-hand side. If you notice, it added another field here on the right. When you move your mouse there, it's going to say order amount difference from France. Now, look at that. Look at the DAX formula over here. I mean, it's getting crazy. I'm glad that was a quick measure. But I can use that to kind of learn the DAX language. But it's getting kind of ridiculous over there. I mean, this one goes down 9 lines. It's like, whoa. I mean, I'm looking at that as a programmer. That is not, there's nothing easy about that. Let's put that code away. So if you notice my mouse, when I click on this little up arrow to put that away. Now, watch what I'm going to do to give myself some more room here. I'm going to put these filters away. So that filter window is open. It's kind of making that visual really small. So I'm going to pick on the view menu up at the top. I'll pick on the word filters. Good. That closed that window. Now I can see the visual better. Well, we have to move that new measure onto the visual. Come over here to the right, pick up the one that says order amount difference from France, and then drag it into your visual. And let's see what happened. Okay, check it out. For federal shipping for 1998, the full sum was 67,000 and some odd change. The order amount was for France was 10,000 and some odd change, and the difference is 56,000. So it's taken this column minus this column to get to that column. So, but we were able to do that with a new quick measure rather than doing it as a measure. All right. Okay, good. So you never used Power BI before. Okay, so I'm glad this is helpful for you. You know, there's a lot more that we can talk about with Power BI. So uh, I'm sure they have the recordings that we've done in the past for the beginner and the intermediate. So those will have even more tips for you. But it's a powerful tool, as you can see. So we're going to do a few more of these quick measures. Now, another one I'd like to do. Let's take away the France amount and the difference from France from this report. So follow my screen. The visual should still be selected. I just clicked on the visual over here on the left, so it's selected. And come back over here and click on this icon, and that'll show you the fields that are on the visual. So scroll down here. The rows are fine with the company name. The column is fine with the order date. But scroll down on the value section and then click on the X to the right of the word order amount for France, and that'll take that field away. And then click on the X where it says order amount difference, and that'll take that away. So now you can see how that really simplified that report quite a bit. Here's something that's interesting. If you scroll back up, see how the order date says year, quarter, month, and day. But when I look at it, I only see the year. So watch how I can get the quarter and the month. Come back over here to the visual and right click where it says 1998 and then pick in the word drill down. And then that'll expand 1998 so we can see quarter 3 and quarter 4. It's only going to show you the ones that it has data for. And then right click where it says quarter 3 and then pick in the word drill down and then it'll show August and September. So, over here on the right where it says columns, and it had the order date with the year, quarter, month, and day. Now you can delete those, as you can see, with those individual X's. But to get to that information, we had to drill down on the report, as you can see. Let me drill back up again. So if you follow my mouse this time, I'm going to come over here and click on this up arrow on the visual, and then I'll drill back up to the quarter level, and then drill back up again, and we're back on the year level. All right, so you have some flexibility on these reports. All right, so let me show you a couple more of these quick measures. Another one that people like to see, let's say you show that report to your boss, and your boss might say, well, how much did it change year by year? Well, that's another quick measure that's built right in. Now, notice how this quick measure window stays open. They made that change a few months ago. It used to be that you'd have to go into the quick measures each time, but the quick measure window is still open. So let's just do another one. Follow my mouse here on the quick measure window and click where it says difference from filtered value, and then you'll see some other choices. There's even a percentage difference from filtered value. That would be very similar to the one that we just did. Let's scroll down, and there's one that says time intelligence. So we have year to date, quarter to date, month to date. But I do have one that says year over year change. Let's go with that one. Now, the base value is still sum of the order amount. So that one is still correct. Come down here on the section that says date and click on the word add data. Then notice how your list of tables is here. Let's expand the orders table and then scroll down a little bit so we can see that order date. There it is. I'm going to click the order date, and then that'll wind up here in the date section. So, I think this is an easy window to use. Come over here and click on add. Now watch closely on the right. There'll be a new field there in just a second. Notice how they're all starting to have like the word order amount in the name. So you probably would want to rename these in real life. Look at this formula. If look at that DAX, that one's 11 lines long. It's starting to be pretty crazy over there. You know, but the DAX, I just haven't gotten a real handle on it yet. But I'm glad we have these quick measures. So come over here to the right. Well, let's put that formula away. So look, I'm going to click on this the down arrow for the formula and put that away. Now I can click on the up arrow. Good. Okay, so move your mouse over here to the right. Find the one that says order amount Y over Y percent. There it is. Pick it up and drag it into the measure. Drag it into the visual. Okay, let's see if it worked. So for federal shipping, for 1998, they had 67,000 and some odd change. In 1999, they had 206,000 and some odd change, and it just happened to be a 206% increase. Speedy Express had 43,000 in 1998, 181,000 in 1999, and that was a 316% increase. So that was a nice one that was built right in. That was called the year over year percent change. Look at my mouse. Click on that pull down where it says year over year change. And there's other ones. There's the month over month change or the quarter over quarter. So those are all built right in. Those are working a pretty similar way. Notice how you have one that's called the rolling average. And if you scroll up a little bit, there's one that's called the weighted average. Those, could be used in investments in different ways, So good. Let me show you one that's called a running total, which is another popular one. Follow my mouse over here to the visuals section. Scroll down. Excuse me. I'm going to scroll down here. Notice in the value section, now you have the order amount, Y over Y percent change. Let's delete that one. So I'll just come over here and click on this X. And now that's been taken away from the visual. So take a look here. We have federal shipping and then Speedy Express and United Package, and all of them add up to be the total. However, some people like to see the running total. So that one is another one that's built right in. Let's try that one. Follow my mouse to the quick measure window, and then click where it says year over year change. And if you go down a little bit, there's one that's called running total. Let's click that one. Good. So let's see. For the base value, now this one's pretty much complete. For the base value, it says sum of the order amount. Now the field is not going to be the order date this time. The field has to be the field over here on the left side of the visual. So go ahead and click on the X for the field. We're really going to add the shipper's name. So click where it says add data. You see the tables here again. Expand the word shippers and click on the company name. So it has to be a field that's already on one of your visuals. And the sort order has to be the same that would be on the visual, and this one is ascending. So it's going to be called the running total. The base value says sum of the order amount. The field is the company name from the shippers table, because that's the field that's over here on the visual. And the sort order is ascending, because that's the same sort order it is on the visual. So that those have to be similar, otherwise you'll get incorrect results for the running total. Go ahead and click on add there. Now watch closely. You'll see another field over on the right-hand side. It's there now. Obviously, you would start to rename those because it's getting kind of complicated. So move your mouse over here to the right. Find one that says order amount running total. Drag it into the visual. Just pick it up and drag it, and let's see if it worked. Okay. So check out 1998. Here's the running total. So 67,000 plus the 43,000 from the next line will be the 110. The 110 plus the 64 and some odd change is going to be the 175, right? So you see that running total. Did that one work for you? That's another one of these measures that's really helpful. I like these quick measures because you can get results without having to know the DAX language. Take a look at the DAX for that one. If you follow my mouse here, I'm going to click on this down arrow next to the formula bar. So, that one is not as bad. It's only 7 lines long, but, it's pretty complicated there. Now, I have used these and just copied that code and then made up my own, measures. Kind of like we did when we had the France and the Germany one. We were just able to change that code. So let's go ahead and put that code away. Good. Let me show you another one of these quick measures. So let's see what I want to do. Oh, yeah, okay. Come back over here to the visuals column, scroll down to the values, and get rid of the order amount for the order amount running total. Let's click on the X there to get rid of that. Now on this visual, we're going to add the freight. So come back over here to the right, pick up the normal freight field that was already there, and just drag that into the visual. So now I have the order amount and the freight. I would like to add those two numbers together. Well, we could do that with another quick measure. So watch what I'll do. We have the order amount and the freight, but I'd like to add those together. Come over here on the quick measure section, click where it says running total. And then if you notice, there's a section that says mathematical operations. So we have addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, percent difference, correlation. And then, so let's do addition. So let's see. The base value is going to be the order amount, and the one we want to add to it is the freight. So click on add data for the value to add. Now you have this list over here. Expand the orders table and click on the freight. So the name will be addition, or the type of calculation will be the addition. It says sum of order amount here, and it says sum of freight here. Go ahead and pick on add, and then watch closely on the right again. You'll see another new column, another new field. So it should be this one here. It says order amount plus the freight. And then you can tell I'm going to drag that into the visual. So I'm just going to pick it up and drag it into the visual here. Let's see if it worked. So I have 67,000 and some odd change plus the 3,200 is going to give us the 7,000. Looks like the math is right. 43,000 plus 1,700 is going to be the 45,000. So, that was another quick measure. We were able to add those columns together pretty easily. I'd like to take a look at that formula. I'm just going to expand the formula here. That was not so bad. That was pretty straightforward. All right. So let's review. When you come over here to the right and you right click on a table, you could go back to where it says edit query and do the formulas there, right? We did a couple of those. When you do a new column, it does show up in the table view just as another field. The new measure does not show up in the table view. It just shows up over here on the right. You have to add those to a visual to really see it. But the new measures and the new columns, require you to type in the DAX language. When you open up the new quick measures, it opens up this window here, and those are a quicker and easier way to make the formulas. Those also will not show up in the table view, but they do show up over here on the right-hand side. Let me go ahead and save my work here. So, Caps, did you get those to work? Good. There is certainly a lot of similarities to Excel. And, if you know Excel, you can pick this up pretty easily. But to me, the Power BI can go further than Excel can, especially when you look at all the visuals that are available, especially when you click on the three dots over here for the visuals. And, you can get more visuals like we did, and there's a lot more. So we know that Excel doesn't have all these other extra visuals. All right, so let me see if there's other topics I wanted to discuss today. So I did all of those. We did the date add and the date diff. We did the count of order details for each order. The ones from the workbook are the ones that we copied from the Excel workbook, so we did those. And then for the quick measures, I did the filter, the difference. Of course, there was one that was called the percent difference of filter, which would work in the same way. We did the running total. The year over year change would be the same as the month over month change. And then we did an addition and a subtraction.